to see you all here tonight. We want you to be comfortable in chairs. And let's see, are we ready? Not quite.
Yes.
Are we ready? All right. I will now call to order the meeting of the City of Salem Urban Renewal Agency Board. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Board Member Bennett.
Here.
Board Member Tesler.
Present.
Board Member Nanke.
Here.
Board Member Clausen.
Here.
Board Member Dickey.
Here.
Board Member Thomas.
Here.
Board Member Cannon is absent. Board Member Clem.
Here.
Chair Peterson.
Here. Thank you. Will you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's right, that's what you're supposed to say. No pause.
I know.
Whatever you get, you can't break.
Our first item is to approve the special meeting agenda. Member Bennett?
Madam Mayor, I move approval of the special meeting agenda for the City Urban Renewal Agency for February 27th, 2012.
Second.
It's been moved by Member Bennett, seconded by Member Nanke to approve the special meeting agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Public comment. Do you have a sign-up sheet? No one has signed up for public comment during the Urban Renewal Agency Board meeting, so we'll move right on to the action items. Member Bennett, would you like to introduce those?
Madam Mayor, I move action item 4A. This is a resolution changing the composition of the West Salem Redevelopment Advisory Board.
Okay.
So you're moving staff.
Is there a
recommendation.
second?
And I'll move staff recommendation. Yeah.
Second.
All right, moved by Member Bennett, seconded by Member Tesler. Is there discussion? I would like to take a moment to say how important that Urban Renewal Redevelopment Agency is, and West Salem, I believe, is really a jewel in our crown, and I certainly support the change in the membership simply because it enlarges the area from which industry can be represented on that board. All right, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thank you. And let's see, Member Bennett, 4B.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move staff recommendation to action item 4B.
Second.
It's been moved by Member Bennett, seconded by Member Nanke to approve the staff recommendation on the demonstration grant program. Is there discussion?
Now,
Yes, Councilor?
just to explain
Member
what
Bennett?
it is, just real
Yes,
quickly,
good.
Madam Mayor, this is the revised version of the Downtown Urban Renewal Demonstration Grant Program guidelines, and we've done a great deal of work on this. We've had work sessions on it. I think we've got this on a ready-to-go basis right now.
Wonderful. I'd like to add in a comment that we are encouraging the community to particularly look at the downtown area as the opportunity that it can be, and we are encouraging of a catalyst project in the downtown area, and that's why we have come forward with this demonstration block grant program and encourage our development and business community to see this as an important catalyst for downtown. Okay. Any other discussion? All right, call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And item 4C. Member Bennett?
Madam Mayor, I move staff recommendation to item 4C.
Second.
Been moved by Member Bennett, seconded by Member Clem to move staff recommendation for this item. Is there discussion? Member Nanke.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just in general, we talked about the $20,000 maximum over a 5-year period, and since the the previous grant was only for half of that. Are we looking at a grant that essentially you can have more than one in 5 years if it falls under 20,000 combined, or?
John Wales, Urban Development. Yeah, the intent, the way it's written now is that you can go in for a grant up to 20,000, and if you don't succeed or if you don't, and if you use that and do that, you wouldn't be eligible for another 5 years. What this does is allow you to come back for a grant that more recently than in 5-year increments, basically. So if somebody comes in with a $5,000 grant, they could come back in a few more years with a 10 or 15,000.
But it wouldn't be for another 20. If I did 10, then come back and do a 20?
It wouldn't be exceeding the 20.
Right, okay. I just wanted to make sure that that was still the cap number in the time period.
Yeah, this is for one application. It's not a change to your general policy.
I'm sorry?
It says this is for one application. This is an exception for one application.
This is an exception to change the policy.
I'm at C. Are we still in B?
No, we're
No,
on
this
C.
is C. You're right.
It says to allow, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Could I, excuse me,
Yes.
Courtney Knox, did you want to explain, did you have anything else you wanted to add to that?
Hi, good evening. Courtney Knox. I work in Salem's Urban Renewal Department. And just really quickly, this is actually an exception only for this particular project
Right.
and not an
Right.
exception to the toolbox guidelines
That's
in
correct.
a permanent fashion. It's really just for this particular project.
Okay.
Just as a follow-up on that, but it could be a precedent that someone else will now say, oh, well, since you let this person do it, and we may want to look at just modifying the policy if it's not hurting anything, that they could have tried to get 20 on the upfront, and if they need to do it in 2 phases, I think the board would be fine with that.
Councillor Clem?
Yes, and I'm not aware of the details, but I am aware of it was a phased project. Just due to codes, they couldn't do it all in one. So unbeknownst to the interpretation from staff at the time, that one application's it, and yet less than half of the money that was applied for was spent. So I don't see that this being a future issue now. Now we'll be all aware it's one application for the total. So this is to correct just a misinterpretation on both staff part and applicant part.
All right. Other comments from agency members? No. All right. We're ready for the question. All those in favor of the staff recommendation, say aye. 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 Opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. The next item has to do with the information report that's in the binders and on the agenda, and I'm asking our city manager, Linda Norris, to make some comments about that.
Yes, this information report is to give you a status update about the Minto Island Bicycle and Pedestrian Bridge and Trail project, and to clarify where we are with it at this point. We are moving forward. Council has on 2 occasions approved the Tide Arch low-rise span design, and so that's what we're moving forward with into the next phase. And I don't know, Mr. Wells, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, other than we hope to give the council regular updates as this project proceeds. And the first phase that we're going to be moving into is the concept design. And we should have that completed by June or July or early summer. And before we go forward with the next phase, we'll be back to update the council and give you regular briefings. Because I think, as everybody understands, we don't at this time have the full funding to proceed with this. We are taking the steps as we've got funding allows, and then we are pursuing grants and other funding methods as well.
All right. Councillor Member Bennett and then Member Nanke.
I wanted to just clarify, we continue to follow the, what do you call it, the high arch, or the design that we have approved several times?
Tide Arch.
Tide Arch.
Design.
Okay.
That continues to be, and we're...
Yes, that
well
is a
underway.
design we're moving forward with.
Okay.
Tied to the ground, keeps the bridge from moving.
Member Nanke?
We had a couple of individuals in the past talk to us about the potential for the Guard to actually assist to some level. Have we spoken with the National Guard to see if there's an opportunity?
Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question. For
There were people who said the National Guard could help defray a lot of the cost by doing something that they do anyway. As far as they've helped in a lot of projects through town in the past, and bridges is one of the things they do.
When
a
we
lot.
get to the
I
construction period.
Yeah, but just as far as seeing if, before we get all the way up to a certain level, and then we find out, oh yeah, you should have asked us. We could have helped, by doing this. It'd be nice to talk to them on the upfront rather than after it may be too late.
Well, we're in this stage now where we're at the point of going through conceptual design, and I think they would need to have that information before they would know, so we can, Mr. Fernandez, see where that
Yeah,
fits in.
Peter Fernandez, interim deputy city manager. That's a great opportunity. There's a great opportunity for them, certainly on the trail portion, which is earth moving. But I think we're still a little too early. We'd want to get to a point where we'd have something to show them since they're a construction unit. But we will definitely make contact.
I think Member Clem had a comment.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I did talk with the Guard in terms of, do they have any available bridging? And the answer is no. I do want to draw attention to the fact that the Guard did construct the bridges out at Minnow Brown Island.
Right.
The footbridges that are there that span a couple of the tributaries. I'm not sure if I think they're fish-bearing, but slough. And so I think there is a great opportunity here. There's not an available inventory of bridging to be erected, so it would have to be a regular construction project. But they can't do anything till they see concept. So.
Okay. Good. All right. All right. Thank you very much for that report. And there's no further business to come before the Urban Renewal Agency Board, so this meeting is adjourned. I'll now call to order the Salem City Council meeting for Monday, February 27th. Would the recorder please call the roll?
Counselor Bennett?
Here.
Counselor Tessler?
Present.
Counselor Nanke?
Here.
Counselor Clausen?
Here.
Counselor Dickey?
Here.
Counselor Thomas?
Here.
Counselor Kennan is absent. Counselor Clem? Here. Mayor Peterson?
Here. Thank you. Okay, our first thing to do is to approve the additions and deletions on the agenda. Now, I'm not certain if it's Counselor Bennett that's going to talk about those?
Yes,
All right.
Madam Mayor, I move approval of additions and deletions to the council agenda for February 27, 2012.
Second.
And would you like to describe them?
Yes, Madam
Okay,
Mayor.
thank
We
you.
are removing from the agenda under action items 3.3H, which is entitled Participation in Clean Energy Works Oregon to offer low-interest financing to Salem residents for energy-efficient improvements. And we have some additional testimony that has come in on 4.A public hearings regarding the airport master plan update.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll now move on to council comment. Do any of the councilors present?
We need to vote on that. Mayor, we may
I'm
want to
sorry.
vote on, we should vote on this.
Oh, we need to
Right.
vote on that?
Yeah, thank
Well,
you.
let's not miss an opportunity to
To
do
vote,
that,
yeah.
right. Okay. Did you move and
did.
Nanki?
And I seconded.
All right. Counselor Bennett moved and Counselor Nanki seconded the report of the additions, deletions, revisions. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Thank you for keeping me honest. Okay. Council comment. Do councilors have comment? Counselor Thomas and then Counselor Nanki.
Thanks, Mayor. I just want to give recognition to North Salem High School, my alma mater, woohoo, for winning the CVC championship last Wednesday under the leadership of Coach Willie Freeman and Cynthia Richardson, the principal. So I just wanted to acknowledge that they won that championship, and we are hoping that they're going to win state. Thanks.
Fine, all right. Other counselors with comments? Counselor Nanki.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just wanted to let people know that next week, starting on Tuesday, going through April 10th, is another batch of community emergency response team trainings at the airport. Tuesday night, 6:30 to 9:30, between March 6th and April 10th, to help people become part of the solution. And to help look out for themselves and their neighbors.
Wonderful. That's important work, important service. Thank you. Counselor Clem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just want to, I may mention this at every meeting we have, between now and May 8th. May 8th will be the first public hearing for testimony on the third bridge, or otherwise known as the Salem River crossing, on May 8th, and a second one on May 17th conducted by ODOT. So put that on your calendar.
And where are those
I'm
conducted?
sorry. Thank you. May 8th will be at West Salem High School.
Uh-huh.
And May 17th will be at the Chemeketa Community College Center for Business and Industry, and these will run from 4 to 7 p.m. So you can come in, look at all the diagrams, give your comments. It's not really a public hearing, it's more of a public comment forum, but should have plenty enough time to dig into the subject of a third bridge.
Good. And that Chemeketa Center is actually the one just north of downtown on Marion Street. Is that Marion? Union. It's on Union and
High and Union.
High and Union. All right, fine. Other comments from counselors? I have two. I want to let everyone know that the 40th anniversary of the Northgate Neighborhood Association is being celebrated in March, and at their annual meeting Tuesday, March 13th at 7 o'clock, and that's going to be at the Ilahi RV Resort, which is in North Salem, and I'll be there. I'm happy to be there, and thank that neighborhood association for their fine work for 40 years. So that's one comment, and my second comment is this evening the Salem Pops Orchestra members, representatives, are not able to be here to receive a proclamation to celebrate their 50th anniversary of concerts in Salem, because right now they're all practicing, and I'm sure they're practicing diligently for the concert, which will be on Saturday evening, and I will present the proclamation there Saturday evening, 7 o'clock at the historic Elsinore Theater for the historic Salem Pops Orchestra concert. Okay, no other comments from counselors. We will move on to public comment from the public, and I think we have some people signed up. Quite a few. All right. Okay, we're going to start this evening with Barbara Palermo, and the next after Barbara is Susan Gallagher. So I'm going to try to kind of keep things moving by saying a couple names at the same time so you're ready for your next person. Good evening, Barbara. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. Can you hear me okay?
It helps to speak up and speak right into the microphone. That's
okay.
good.
I think I'm a little tall for this microphone.
That's good.
Okay. My name is Barbara Palermo, and I live in Ward 8. On January 23rd, there was a big crowd here to show support for revising the chicken ordinance, and 7 speakers eloquently explained to you why it should be made more affordable and less restrictive. At that meeting, the city attorney confirmed that the chicken ordinance can be easily and quickly amended without having to hold another public hearing. This will speed up the process significantly if you allow it. There is no need to spend any more time, money, or precious city resources on something that has already been thoroughly researched, tested, and now proven to be a non-issue. Over a 2-year period, city staff fully researched backyard chicken ordinances and consulted with other cities on the matter. 2 public hearings were held, and every possible concern was addressed. Then, and only then, did your staff draw up an ordinance and recommend implementation. Another year has passed, and your staff reports a successful program, stating there have been fewer complaints and minimal cost. Fewer complaints means you're already saving on investigations, and reducing the number of inspections as outlined in the revisions would save you even more time and money. I would like to address one counselor's concern regarding fewer inspections. He asked at the last meeting, what if someone passes their inspection and then never cleans their coop again for 10 years? First, that is not likely to happen. Backyard chicken keepers treat their small flocks as pets, taking pride in their coops to the point of showing them off in coop tours every summer, and making sure the eggs they eat come from healthy, happy chickens, not dirty, smelly ones. Second, the ordinance remains complaint-driven. So if someone doesn't clean their coop, the neighbors will surely notice and lodge a complaint. If that happens, an inspection will occur to validate the complaint. And last, the penalty for noncompliance remains intact. This means steep escalating fines. The first offense, $250. The second, $500. The third offense, $750. And you lose the right to keep chickens permanently at that point. So you can see the ordinance already has built-in safeguards. There is no reason to overregulate or overcharge. As for the cost of the license, that has been left up to you. Keep in mind, it's better to have a lot of people pay a one-time fee of $25 and be in compliance than just a few who are willing and able to pay $50 every year. We ask that you pass the motion tonight that will amend the ordinance as recommended by your own staff. And if you do, I promise never to return to City Hall. Any questions?
Are there questions for Ms. Palermo? Okay, thank you very much. All right, Susan Gallagher, and then Dino Venti.
Hello.
Hi, Susan.
My name is
Welcome.
Susan Gallagher. I live at 799 Waldo Avenue Southeast in Salem. I am speaking as a representative of Friends of Two Bridges nonprofit organization. Thank you, Mayor Peterson and the council, for this opportunity to speak. The bridge to Minto Brown Park and the connecting pathways are about improving livability. The parks exist and need to be connected. This concept has existed for over 25 years, and the time is now to make the connections a reality. From our perspective, we recognize there are two ends of the spectrum on negativity regarding this project. Those defenders of a natural wildlife preserve that allows little to no recreational use. This group prefers limiting park use and would prefer keeping the park as it is. However, we feel the city needs more recreation to improve livability, not less. On the other end, you have government mistrust. Those who say government takes 3 times longer and costs 3 times as much, and they don't want to see government spend any money on anything. Negativity happens when people are uninformed or confused. This is an opportunity to educate. Nothing is gained in allowing negativity or confusion to deter from the progress that's been made toward this project to date. The problem is perception of priority, and these are the reasons why. People whine about the city cutting its budget. The average citizen really does not differentiate between funding sources toward $9 million in bridge costs and $10 million in budget cuts. They think, brand new fire station and not enough money to staff it 24 hours a day. They think social service cuts. They think teacher job cuts. However, funding for these areas is not the same as funding for the bridge. The misinformed person thinks the city of Salem is going to build a $9 million bridge and cut meals from poor kids, cut teachers, cut firefighters, and cut fill in the blank. Once again, the negativity is based on uninformed or incorrect information. The Friends of Two Bridges are partners with the city. The council has designated the bridge and connecting pathways as a priority, and there's a large number of supporters in the community. Once again, let's work together to inform and correct misinformation. Once again, the Friends of Two Bridges express our support for the bridge and pathways to the council. The council has already voted to support this project. Once again, we ask the council to take the lead in informing the citizens that the bridge and connecting pathways are a priority for the city, and explain to the citizens how the $9 million bridge funding sources are different from the $10 million city budget cuts. The bridge connection will enrich general health and well-being and provide free recreational opportunities for generations of current and future Salem residents. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your comments. Are there questions? Councillor Dickey.
Thanks for coming down. I just would like to know, could you explain a little bit about Friends of Two Bridges and what you're doing to support the effort?
First of all, the Union Street Railroad Bridge is the other bridge, and that Friends of Two Bridges was instrumental in conducting a celebration to represent the opening of that bridge. And then it was closed for a period of time, and we were also instrumental in a celebration to reopen it after there was some work done on it. We are working with the city in terms of fundraising. So we have a subcommittee that is working on grants. I'm not on that subcommittee, but that's happening right now. We're working with Annie Gorski and Clint Dameron. And we've had an MOU, a memorandum of understanding with the city to work with them. We're also working with a local business, Gallagher Fitness Resources, to conduct a series of events the second Friday of the month from May through October. And it's to increase awareness of what this bridge is all about and to request funding assistance from people. And so these are non-competitive walks and runs throughout the downtown Salem area. We're not charging registration fee. We're just asking for donations and providing an opportunity from volunteers of Friends of Two Bridges will be on hand to explain information about the bridge. Is that?
Yeah, great. Thanks a lot.
Good. Councillor Clem.
Yes, thanks for coming down, Susan. Just want to give a perspective here of how important your group is. I chaired the Metropolitan Planning Organization that allocates federal funding to the area, and for the first $1 million grant that happened about 4 years ago for the Union Street Railroad Bridge, competition was fierce. Obviously, is fierce again today. When the ODOT grant awarders saw over 100 letters come in support of the Union Street Railroad Bridge, I think that was one of the key factors in getting that bridge project started. So the letter writing and all of the advocacy that you guys do, it made a difference, a big difference, because that's what's got us started, and then other grants were put together. So I appreciate your work in that, because the folks in West Salem just, and I'm sure all of Salem, love being able to see the river in the unique way that you can, and appreciate a healthier lifestyle by using the railroad bridge. So thank you.
Thank you.
I believe Councillor Tessler has a comment.
I can't let you get away without making at least one comment, but here's my comment, is that, a lot of people talk, and, Gallagher's Fitness they donated $2,000 towards the Friends of Two Bridges, and I just wanted to mention that because talk is cheap, and, their $2,000 is a good start to the fundraising, so I just wanted to commend Susan and her husband John for doing that. I think that's great. I would invite anyone in the room today who would like to donate to Friends of Two Bridges. If you'd like to donate more than $2,000, that'd be great. I'll even write you a personal letter if you do. So.
I'll put that up under check.
Here we go.
Thank you, Laura.
All right. Thank you again for coming. We really appreciate your leadership on this project and your participation throughout the community. Thank you so much. All right. Dino Venti and then John Gallagher.
Hello, Mayor, Council.
Yes, welcome.
I'm here as well, first of all, I reside at 3590 Karen Avenue Southeast in Salem, but I spend most of my time downtown at 325 Court Street, where I've been for the better part of 16 years. And over that 16-year period, I've watched downtown go through its ups and downs, but moving in a continuous, I think, progressive direction. And I think, having this bridge and connecting that amenity, of these trails to our downtown is just invaluable. I mean, you just can't do that anywhere else. You can't take a park and just plop it next to your downtown. And we have one sitting there waiting to really, complement our downtown. The railroad bridge, I think, was a good first step. I think this bridge, to Minto, would really give us an asset that we would be reaping benefits for decades to come. It would really put Salem on the map. The healthy lifestyle. I think it would, as a business owner, I just obviously see the benefits of, bringing more people through downtown. I'm also, along with Gallagher's Fitness and the courthouse, planning a series of fundraisers through springtime into fall for the Friends of Two Bridges, which I'm also becoming a part of the fundraising campaign myself, because it's really that important to me. And, I think the city would really be missing out on, for $9 million is a lot of money. But think about, the park the size of Minto Brown and what it would cost to try to create something like that next to your downtown. When you put that into perspective, I think that $9 million is really, I don't want to say a small amount of money, but would be worth the investment for downtown. I can go on about this for hours. I think, helping brand Salem and its community as a place to live and recreate also, would bring, the intangible to more of a tangible, benefit. Those kind of places people like to live, businesses like to relocate. And I think it would be good for all of us all the way around. So thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. Are there questions for Mr. Venti? Appreciate you coming. Thank you very much. And John Gallagher, and then after him, Mark Shipman.
Evening.
Welcome.
Mayor, City Council, many guests. Thanks for this opportunity to come up and say a few words. Sorry, it seems like we're ganging up on you tonight about the Minto Bridge, but this is something that's very important personally to me. We talked about anniversaries. I'm coming close to 10 years of working on this particular project with different city committees and different citizen committees. So I'm glad to see that things are moving forward. But I do urge a most efficient timeline possible to move through all the complicated process that we need to do to get the design, the construction, and everything moving to connect these two parks. I'm aware that there are between 15 and 20 different state, federal, and local agencies, government agencies, that all need to sign off on this. Let's get moving on that. Let's do what needs to be done. Any citizen issue or citizen involvement that you need. You've heard some commitment from my wife, from Dino, and the Friends of Two Bridges. We're all behind you. I was part of the Urban Land Institute group that came in 2006, and they immediately recognized what a phenomenal linchpin this is, tying, as Dino was saying, the park to a downtown area. The economic benefit to the restaurants, to the shops downtown. When people come downtown to recreate, they're going to stay downtown. And the investment in downtown is also going to be reflected in the investment into this bridge. So this is an investment into Salem's future, into Salem's future livability. It's going to give us reasons to go downtown, reasons to go to the park, reasons to stay healthy and fit. So private citizens are ready to commit our volunteer assistance and volunteer funding. We ask that the City Council commit to completing the task and making this a dream a reality. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there questions for Mr. Gallagher? Thank you very much for coming down. We appreciate your testimony.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. My name is Mark Shipman. I reside at 3245 Sunridge Drive South, and I work at 250 Church Street Southeast, Suite 300 here in Salem. I'm here both as a resident of Salem and also as the president of the Salem Area Chamber of Commerce this evening. I would like to encourage council to continue to move forward with this, with the design, funding, and construction for the Minto Island Bridge and Trail project. It's going to enhance tourism, and it's going to also benefit the ongoing development that we have occurring in our downtown area, particularly around Riverfront Park. I'd like to thank you and thank staff for all the effort, the time, and the energy that you've put in towards this, and just encourage you to keep pushing forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming down this evening. Are there questions for Mr. Shipman? All right. I'd like to just add my 2 cents in that something not mentioned, but with regard to the bridge, is that it would then connect our 3 parks, Riverfront Park, Wallace Marine Park, Riverfront Park, Wallace Marine Park, and Minto Brown Island, giving us a great park area as Central Park in New York City. It will put us on the map. So I just wanted to add that to the testimony. Tom Beasley is signed up for 2 items, 3.3A and then 3.3F. So Mr. Beasley, if you're, there you are.
Mayor Peterson, City Council members, my name is Tom Beasley and I reside in Ward 3. And it seems I'm always at this podium filing minority reports. So let me file the first one on the item in which there is a letter to be sent to part of the congressional delegation of Oregon requesting that they encourage funding from the Highway Trust Fund to support chariots. I think that letter is ill-timed and should not go forward. I want to read to you a headline from a Bloomberg News report filed on the February 1st of this year, which says U.S. Highway Trust Fund faces insolvency next year, Congressional Budget Office says. The Highway Trust Fund, which pays for U.S. road, bridges, and mass transit projects, faces insolvency sometime during the 2013 fiscal year, and that will begin October 1st, according to the Congressional Budget Office. The Highway Trust Fund will probably run a deficit of $10 billion this year, compared with an $8 billion deficit in 2011. The Washington CBO, which provides Congress with analysis, said in a recent report today. The fund, which is financed through fuel taxes, won't be able to meet its obligations next year, according to the report. Congress has moved $34.5 billion to the trust fund from the general trust fund since 2008 to keep it afloat. The Senate and House have proposed bills authorizing more in spending than the fund's income from taxes. It makes no sense to me that Salem, Oregon asks its congressional delegation, asked for money from a trust fund that will be likely insolvent in 2013.
Are there questions for Mr. Beasley on this topic? Okay. And your next comment was with
Yes.
3.3F?
Has to do with the aquatics program. I had one of my questions answered in conversation with Councilor Nanke. When I read this on the city's webpage, I could not recall this particular topic ever coming before the public at the conclusion of last year's budget hearings. That there would be probably a cessation of swimming programs in the summer at either Walker or Olinger Pool. He confirmed to me, and I'll ask for confirmation now, that he doesn't recall it ever coming forward for public comment until he saw it on his report from Mr. Chandler this afternoon. Is that true?
City Manager
Yes,
Linda Norris.
I can respond to that. It did not come up at the end of the budget session last year. We have known last year we had were able to operate one pool but not the other, and we weren't sure at that time what the conditions of the pools would be this year, and in fact have just recently learned that, and that's why the report is coming now.
What is recently?
Oh, I would say within a week or two, we found out what the cost of the pool repairs would need to be.
Well, I think for as long a time as I've lived in Salem and come to council meetings, funding of aquatics programs has been problematic for some years now. And the number it costs to fund a program, say at Olinger Pool, has always been about the same order of magnitude, around $74,000 a year. I don't believe the members of this audience or those watching on TV have paid significant attention to city budgets in the way they ought to. So I'll end my comments by pointing out the following. That the department head annuities in this city, that is to say the money spent for department heads, in addition to the city residents paying their entire PERS retirement funds and virtually all of their health care funds, that department head annuity for 13 people in this year's fiscal budget is $75,000, $75,440. It's a wash with what it would cost to keep a summer program at Olinger. Entirely within the department head's initiative, if they voluntarily withdrew a request for that annuity for some time, The only question would be whether or not the schools, in fact, would take $75,000 and have a summer program of swimming for the children. Those children, when they swim, will sometime save their own lives, and quite possibly, knowing how to swim, will save the lives of other people as well.
All right, are there questions for Mr. Beasley? All right, thank you very much. And our last person who has signed up to speak under this item, under this section of the agenda, is Joel Turner. Good evening.
Good evening,
Welcome.
Mayor, City Council. My name is Joel Turner. I live at 2766 Fillmore Avenue Northwest, and I just wanted to speak on behalf of Salem's running community as a runner myself in favor of the bridge out to Minto Island Park. Me as a runner and the people I run with, we use all three parks on a regular basis, and the railroad bridge has been, a huge success, and we use that on a regular basis to run back and forth between the two parks. And every weekend we make the slog out to Minto Island, which is about 2 miles out South River Road, and I just want to urge the City Council to support this new bridge coming in, and it's going to be a lot safer, I think, for the people who would go out to the other park anyway, to be able to stay, off the city streets and in the park, and I think it'd be great for our community. And I actually look forward to working with the Friends of Two Bridges during this summer's fundraising events that we're going to have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there questions? Thank you so much for coming down tonight and for putting your shoulder to the wheel along with many others to help us make the bridge a reality. Thank you very much. Okay, excuse me for just a moment. Okay. We'll now move to the consent calendar item on your agenda, item 3. Councillor Bennett?
Madam Mayor, I move the consent agenda with the following polls. Poll 3.2B by Dickey. 3.2D. The reason for 3.2D is to put it after the public hearing on the airport. 3.3A, Dickey recuses herself. Poll 3.3F by Nanke. And as you recall, we removed H from the agenda.
You said 3.3
F by Nanke.
By Nanke. Okay, thanks.
And Clem.
And Clem, okay.
And Bennett.
All right. And 3.3H was removed from the agenda.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All right. So you have moved for the consent calendar. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Councillor Bennett and seconded by Councillor Nanke to approve the consent calendar with the exceptions of the items pulled 3.3A.
No, B.
No?
3.2B. I'm sorry.
I had 3.3A for Diana Dickey.
She is recusing herself on that one. She is pulling 3.2B.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Oh, you bet.
I see.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Maybe you'd like to run back through
I'll
the
do it
polls
again.
and then we'll
Okay,
vote. All
sorry.
right, thank you.
You bet, Mayor. Polling 3.2B, D, and 3.3F are being pulled.
Okay,
And then Dickie is recusing herself on 3.3A.
that's it, okay. And there's a second from Counselor Nanki. All right, all those in favor of adopting the consent calendar without the polls, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously. All right. Now we'll go back to those items. Are we going to do the public hearings first? All right. We go to the public hearings, which is item 4 on the agenda. And I believe we have a staff presentation, and then we have people signed up to testify.
The Salem City Council will now hold a public hearing to receive testimony on the acceptance of an airport master plan update and forwarding to the Federal Aviation Administration for approval.
Thank you. And from staff, we have with us, I see, Mr. Wales. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. My name is John Wales. I'm the director of the Urban Development Department, and I'm here tonight to present the staff report on the master plan for the Salem Airport. And I understand it is just coming up now. It's up on this screen, so I will proceed. The question before the council tonight is whether the city council shall accept the master plan that has been completed in 2012 at the plan update and direct the city manager to forward the master plan to the Federal Aviation for final approval. What I'd like to do tonight, and what the staff report does is basically inform the public on the process that we've gone through, explain what a master plan is, talk about the outreach that we've undertaken, identify some of the key findings and key facility projects that have been identified and what the next steps are. And so that's really the summary of this short presentation. For those that aren't familiar, a master plan, an airport master plan, is basically, and for the most part, a facilities plan. It's a community vision of what the community sees over a 20-year period for the long term for the development of its airport. The City of Salem already has a master plan in place. It was last updated in 1997. Typically, most communities that have airports will update their master plans every 8 to 10 years. Ours is a little bit over because there hasn't been the need at this point to do that. It's a routine task to go through a master plan update. It's a very important one. It's one that we've taken very seriously and one that we've involved the community in a large way to get input. But overall, it's a process that the FAA prescribes as far as what the content is in a master plan. Typically, in a master planning process, the elements that are included are we go through an inventory of the assets that we have at the airport. We develop an aviation forecast. We look at the facility, looking at what the condition of our assets are out there and what requirements they're needed to take care and even upgrade them in some cases. We look at alternatives that can be considered, and we do an evaluation of all this. And what it results in is a list of capital projects that we believe that the airport could benefit from over the next 20 years. As I mentioned, public outreach is a critical part of this process. We've been back, I believe it was back in last winter, almost a year ago, we created a master plan advisory committee of approximately 20 members. And this included neighborhood representatives, airport business representatives, tenants and users at the airport, and advisory groups as well. In talking to other communities, airport master plans advisory committees could generally run between 4 and 5 members. We decided to broaden that in Salem and include a much broader input from the community. During the past year, we've had 3 public forums. We've had 3 council work sessions on this topic. And in early February, the Planning Advisory Committee unanimously approved the master plan and recommended it be forwarded to the council. At the same time, or shortly after, the Airport Advisory Committee reviewed the document and made the same recommendation to forward this for council approval. In approaching our master plan, we've approached it in two phases. The first phase started back in 2009, 2010, and it was really looking at what were the opportunities and need for this airport. And it included looking at the aviation activity, the runway needs of current operations. And in 2010, in April, the FAA approved a primary runway extension, the justification based on the current airport activity. And that extension was an approval of an additional 1,200-foot runway, increasing it in size from 5,800 to 7,000 feet. Based on that understanding, we took that information and moved forward with Phase 2. And this was a documentation process where we looked at conditions, trends. We identified the impacts to the airfield infrastructure. We looked at and developed a capital improvement plan. And as part of that, one of the final documents that was prepared was an airport layout plan. And you'll hear a little bit more about this. That airport layout plan, is ALP as it's referred to, by the FAA, is a visual depiction of airport facilities and possible future projects. And it is a document that the FAA looks at very carefully and requires airport owners to keep updated and current. So the document that has been prepared is a large document. It has been in the library for 2 weeks. It's on, actually, yeah, for a little over 2 weeks. It's been on the internet for over 2 weeks. There's been a summary of that document that was prepared in the council materials tonight, but basically includes approximately 7 chapters. As I've mentioned before, an inventory. It has an environmental overview. It's a high-level overview. It includes an aviation forecast, which is an important document that the FAA is particularly interested in. It looks at the runway needs, facility requirements, a land use, noise evaluation, and ending in a capital improvement plan. The starred items on this list, of course, are there just to point out that those are the sections of the master plan, although the FAA will look at all of it, that will be of most significance to them in their review. I know some of you, or many of you, have seen this map before, but what this map basically shows is the results of all this effort, and it gives a picture of where the city sees the vision for future maintenance and development of the airport. Just quickly, I know it's hard to read this, but the purple areas are the areas that have been designated as either for industrial, commercial, or aviation-related uses. And it's about 40 to 50 acres worth of developable land that, as you can see, is within the airport boundaries and has direct access to taxiways and to the runways. Just to give you an orientation, this is Mission Street here, I-5 is here, Airport Way is along this area here, and 25th Street is up to the north here. The airport, in addition to the area that's we call within the fence, also has an additional 30 acres of property, industrial property outside the fence, which has development potential as well. The orange areas, or the red areas that you can see, are the areas that have been identified for taxiway improvements. A lot of what the FAA looks at is bringing infrastructure up to current standards, particularly safety standards, considering access on and off the airport. The shaded areas, or the black areas that you see outlined here, are actually taxiways that we're recommending be removed as the orange areas get improved and increased. The blue area is the runway, and it's what we've concluded in the master plan is the preferred concept for the runway expansion. I mentioned that the FAA had approved a 1,200-foot expansion, but in doing this analysis, we also realized there was probably about 200 feet at the north end of the airport that was a safety concern. It had some line of vision problems from the tower, and so we're recommending decreasing the runway by 200 feet here and adding it to the south end, making the south end a 1,400 foot expansion. Other areas that are identified in the master plan are parking and circulation areas around the terminal. The green areas here identify emergency fire systems. We know that over 20 years, the response time on an airport such as this will be heightened and improved, and so we're trying to plan for additional facilities in that area as well. The important thing to remember about this is these are just projects and plans that are anticipated. They won't be built unless there's a need and unless the city council approves them. So because it's on a map or because it's in the plan, allows us to apply for FAA funding to build them, but they won't necessarily all happen. But I can make that point as we go on as well. So what has this all told us? Well, it's the master plan has suggested that a longer runway, particularly to the south, will shift the noise contours further to the south. What we've also learned is that there's a smaller property impact to the area than we had initially thought. One of the things the master plan identified is this blue shaded area here are currently areas that we have anticipated and planned for this and have easements and rights to the airspace. The remaining green areas are areas where there still needs to be easements or acquisition of property. It's a considerably smaller area than what we had initially envisioned. So that's where that refers to. We don't believe there's any new zoning that's going to be required as a result of this. The zoning that is already in place looks adequate and looks appropriate to accommodate these projects. So looking ahead, I mentioned that there's a capital improvement plan that's identified with a master plan. There are really 5 areas that these improvements fall into. There's the runway improvement to expand it to 7,000 feet. There is creating opportunities for additional hangar, commercial, industrial property development. There's the opportunity to reconfigure the taxiway system to improve the sight lines of efficiencies and to gain improvements in safety. To construct aircraft rescue firefighting station facilities and to improve the passenger terminal and parking. The total estimated price for all of these airport improvements over the next, I think it's through year 2022 actually, is $24 million. Most of this funding will be requested from the FAA. The city is required to contribute a 10% match for all federal funding, for all FAA funding. At this point, the city is looking to use its Connect Oregon money that it received from ODOT as our match to any FAA project, particularly the runway in the immediate future. Any other money that is needed for the match would come from the airport, the local airport aviation fund. And there's no city general funds that were being targeted for use in this proposal. So moving forward, if the council decides to accept the master plan, we will be forwarding it to the FAA for review. When the FAA completes its review, it will submit in writing back to the city that it has done so and has accepted it. And at that point, Planning Commission will be, the document or a portion of the document will be forwarded to the Planning Commission to be included in the comprehensive plan. And we're assuming that that's going to happen roughly in the fall of this year. So to sum up, what staff's recommendation is that the council accept the master plan update and direct the city manager to forward the FAA, forward the document to the FAA for approval. That concludes my comments.
All right.
We now have several people who have signed up to testify this evening, and I'm going to just give a couple names at a time because you can use either podium, and we'll try to be sure everyone has a chance to address the council. And if you are speaking, the amber light comes on at the end of 2 minutes, and the red light comes on when your 3rd minute is up. So watch for the lights, and we will start with Jacqueline Schindel. Do I have that right? Yes, Jacqueline. Joan Lloyd, and then Valerie Brown.
I am Jacqueline Schindel, and I am co-chair of the NEN Neighborhood Association, and I reside at 970 15th Street, Northeast Salem. First of all, I quite enjoyed your speech, but when you were talking about neighborhood representatives, unfortunately, you neglected to invite NEN to the table, so we feel rather left out. So we were here because we met Tuesday, February 21st, 2012. At that time, NEN board voted to oppose the proposed expansion of the Salem Airport runway. Now, it's rather ironic because we are getting rid of the railroad noise with the quiet zone, but now we seem to be getting more aircraft noise and vibration. And for people who live in historic older homes, you have a tremendous amount of glass rattling and china cabinets rattling. So this is something that's been going on, and we thought with the passenger flights off, that hallelujah, that problem had been solved, but no, it doesn't look like it. We would like to enjoy a more quiet life. Now, in regards to flooding, this is an extremely vulnerable area. During the January flood, many of the streets near the airport suffered from high water and were closed. While a plane may have been able to take off, or not, getting to jobs would be problematic. Also, with these increased expansion of hangars and taxiways, etc., with impermeable surfaces, more flooding will result from these facilities as well as parking. And this is an extremely vulnerable area. The economic realities. The council does not have a very good track record when it comes to decisions regarding the airport. The attempts council made at passenger service were poorly thought out and even more poorly implemented. The airport seems to be operated as an elitist hobby vanity. We heard that 200 to 400 jobs that are possible, but these hypothetical employees may or may not be residents of Salem, and therefore their contributions may not actually affect the local economy. However, as several thousand households will be negatively affected in regards to noise, vibration, enhanced flooding, elevated lead levels in soil and water, affecting all the schools in the NEN area, parks and home gardens, property values, and therefore property taxes will be lowered. Will the trade-off be economically viable? At least 3 neighborhood associations will have the majority of their households at risk of decreased property values. At this time of already depressed house values, this seems to be counterproductive and extremely short-sighted.
Thank you very much. Your time is up. Appreciate you coming. Are there any questions for Mrs. Schindel? Thank you very much. All right. Joan Lloyd?
Joan Lloyd was unable to come tonight, and she resides at 1577 Court Street Northeast, and she has me reading her statement by proxy.
Do we allow that?
She went to all of the airport meetings, and unfortunately,
All right, I will allow her testimony, but do be cognizant of the time limits, please. Thank you.
Quote, I would like to state that I'm in opposition to the runway expansion at the Salem Airport. I have attended 3 open houses at Salem Airport and heard what John Pascal and John Whale said about the project at a Northeast Neighborhoods meeting as well. But I still lack facts that substantiate the benefits of this expansion. The city of Salem will supposedly experience a great economic boom as a result of the runway expansion. The estimate of the number of jobs, to be creative, have ranged from 200 to 400 for aircraft-related industry. At this time, no industry has committed to coming here if the runway is extended. If the businesses come to this enterprise zone, they will not be required to pay taxes for 5 years. If the workers don't live in Salem or Marion or Polk counties, how will the extra employment help Salem? Now, at the February 16th open house on a card handed out, the number of jobs and wages contributed to the regional economy is given, but in what year was this study by the Oregon Department of Aviation done? Is it still relevant? Extra operations mean more frequent noise. We were told that because the bigger planes are quieter, those of us in the pathway of runway 1331 won't have an issue with noise. I'm not reassured since the FAA's integrated noise model and analysis include no noise monitoring and no held observations. Refer to draft chapter 6, section 3.3 in NEN Northeast Neighbors. Many resources, residents in 2 schools may be affected by the increased noise, but NEN was not even invited to attend the March 14, 2011 council meeting where information about the master plan was disseminated, although Cessna, Morningside, and Semco were. In Cessna, Bush Elementary will hear the noise. The FAA would be responsible for mitigation if it has the funds. There is no guarantee. Another environmental concern is the additional stormwater runoff caused by an increase in impervious surfaces on parking lots, longer runway, and roofs of hangars and other buildings. On 19 January, there was a great deal of flooding in the streets around the airport. I think it'll be even worse with the expansion. The Salem Airport is an entity surrounded by the city, which must abide by the rules of the FAA for land use. Land use must be compatible with the airport, not vice versa. I feel that the airport expansion will benefit a small number of people, such as pilots and owners of aircraft, that most of us will be subject to FAA regulations that will not consider our livability. In my opinion, the livability of Salem will be decreased, if not harmed, by the expansion of the airport runway. Therefore, I am opposed to the expansion. End of quote.
Thank you very much. I do have one question for you, and that goes back to the NEN resolution. How many board members voted for and how many against that resolution?
75% voted.
No, I mean how many, not percentage. How many?
There were only 8, but that is a quorum at the moment.
Right. All right. So 8 people in that neighborhood association voted against the master plan.
And only 2 were for.
Thank you. And just for your information and anyone else, in the future, anyone who signs up must be present in the chambers in order to testify, and any messages delivered by other people could be entered into the record and in the future not read by others at the podium. Thank you very much.
And Ms. Lloyd is really regretful she can't be here tonight, so she very, very much appreciates your indulgence. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Valerie Brown, and then Nancy McDaniel.
I live at 1875 Lorraine Court Southeast, which is in the Scan neighborhood. And my testimony is, you can consider that it comes from a group of people who are affiliated with Salem, Oregon Aviation Watch. We're kind of the Salem branch of that group. The proposed runway extension at Salem Airport is one more in a long string of the city's bad transportation decisions. The city asserts that the runway needs to be 1,200 feet longer to allow existing users to take off and land more safely. But according to a 2008 memo from Alexander to ODOT, this argument was based on vague statements by SkyWest pilots and was unsupported by data. SkyWest no longer serves Salem. Airport activity has been declining since 1978. A graph available at flysalem.com shows this very clearly. I wish I had it to illustrate. Every attempt to increase activity has failed because there is simply no need for Salem's airport to expand in any way. Consider the city's attempts to procure commercial service. 1993, Horizon Airlines drops commercial service because it had only 1,733 passengers for 534 flights. an average of 3.25 passengers per flight. 2004-2005, the city and Horizon obtained $500,000 from the FAA to offset Horizon's costs for resuming regular service. Even so, Horizon declines to return. 2006 to 2008, Airport Management invites Silver State Helicopters to open a flight school in Salem. Some 90 students are recruited, each of whom pays upwards of $60,000 to Silver State up front. When the Las Vegas outfit is revealed to be a Ponzi scheme, something Airport Management could have determined ahead of time had they done their due diligence, those students are left with mountainous debt and no pilot's licenses. 2007, the city gets $500,000 from the U.S. Department of Transportation, and local businesses pledge another $500,000 to lure Delta SkyWest to Salem. After 16 months, Delta SkyWest cancels its service. 2011, in April, Seaport begins commercial service. The city spends $10,000 on marketing and gives Seaport $4,500 in fee waivers. Seaport departs in July after providing service for a grand total of 4 months. Despite all these attempts, the overall trend in all types of aviation has been dropping for nearly 5 decades. The future looks no more promising than the past. The city imagines that takeoffs and landings will increase 22% in the next 20 years. The 1997 master plan suggests this is likely to be wrong. It predicted 73,600 operations in 2010. The actual number was 40,537, barely over half the predicted number. Salem's proximity to Portland means that local commercial service is a mirage. It's time to accept reality and move on. Salem will never be any farther away from Portland than it is now. We should be grateful that we have an international airport close enough for convenience and distant enough to preserve Salem's livability. Instead of a longer runway, we need frequent, reliable, affordable train service to Portland International Airport. The City Council needs to spend its time achieving this goal, not pouring good money after bad. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there questions of by councilors? All right, thank you very much. Nancy McDaniel, and then Lieutenant Mark Ulbum. Yes.
Hello, my name is Nancy McDaniel. I live at 265 21st Street Northeast. I'm a resident of the Nen neighborhood. And I'm also here to voice my concerns about the airport expansion. I think this is an interesting agenda because right before this we had people talking about the second bridge and talking about how something like that can make people want to move to Salem, make it a place where people want to come and live. And that's why I'm here tonight, because I have a lot of concerns about this project. I'm concerned that the airport expansion is going to have a lasting effect on the livability of Salem and the neighborhoods, while the benefits that are supposed to come from it may not materialize. I don't live directly in the flight path, but I live close enough that I do have occasionally planes sounding like they're going to drop in on top of my house. And when the helicopter school was here, it was terrible living there. The airport is located in a dense urban area, as the mayor noted in her letter to the FAA about their proposed withdrawal of funding for the air traffic control tower. And I would also like to point out that a large part of Cessna, the area that's southeast of 17th and State Street, it's a dense neighborhood. It's already, according to the master plan, an incompatible land use with the airport. I'm concerned that we're inviting more air traffic with no ability to control it, and we saw that with the helicopter school. The city doesn't have any say over aircraft operations. So I know this is going to be a long process, and there are a lot of steps in the way, but what I would just like to ask that before the final decision is made on whether to extend the runway and expand the airport, I'd like to ask that the decision be made on a good analysis of the real benefits and to the city and to the neighborhoods. As I said, I worry that this could end up being a no-win situation where there's the benefits don't materialize, but there's permanent damage to the neighborhoods and the livability of Salem. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there questions for Ms. McDaniel? All right, thank you very much. Appreciate you coming this evening. Welcome, Lieutenant. Do I have your title correct? I don't,
Lieutenant
do
Colonel,
I?
ma'am.
I shouldn't try to wing these things, should I? Please give us your full title and your address, please.
I will, ma'am.
Thank
Lieutenant
you.
Colonel Mark Olvin, I am the Aviation Support Facility Commander out at 1921 Turner Road here at Salem. And I am here on behalf to urge the City Council and Madam Mayor to pass the Salem Airport Master Plan. That's exactly what it is we're here to talk about tonight, and that is a master plan. We need a plan for the future, for the infrastructure for our city. Whether it's highways or roads that we talk about, or if it's airports, we need a plan for our future. What's critical about the airport, and what's the benefit to the airport? Well, I can provide you that from a National Guard perspective. As a commanding officer out at the airport for the National Guard, we provide the benefit of state search and rescue assets and also firefighting assets to respond throughout our state. And one of those benefits, though, is we do disaster relief and humanitarian assistance throughout the national response plan, throughout disasters that are of phenomenal, I guess if you want to call it, they're when you have like Hurricane Katrinas or you have tornadoes, they look to the National Guard and they respond to those, and we are part of that program. But where do they end up going to? They go to the infrastructure that they need to get people in and out. And where do they go? They go to airports. That's how the National Guard responds. It responds by delivering assets, cargo, personnel, and equipment to our airports in times of disasters. And that's what this airport will do for the community and for the Marion County and for the city of Salem. We do live in the Cascadia subduction zone, which I think many people are familiar with, is the earthquake zone out here. We've already had one scare with a tsunami a year ago, and we all know what happened in Japan here this past year also. And our response, though, is critical to have the infrastructure in place, and those critical elements of infrastructure are airports. And that's so we can get the national response to respond to the state of Oregon in case of time of need and disaster. And this airport provides that. And why it provides that is because we have the National Guard structure already at the airport at Salem, and that's where the equipment and people and equipment will respond to, and the cargo that is needed to respond to assist our families, our citizens, and also our loved ones here in the local area or the whole state.
Thank you. Are there questions for the Lieutenant Colonel? No, I mean from counselors. Yeah, sorry. No, only from counselors. Yeah. All right. Thank you for coming. Thank you for your testimony, and thank you for your service to our community and to our country.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you. All right. Paul Jowdis and then Ray Burstead.
Good evening. My name is Paul Jowdis. I live at 850 East Street Northeast. I am representing Americans for Prosperity. I am the Marion County chapter leader, and we are fighting for fiscal responsibility and limited government in Oregon. As stated in the proposed airport master plan, the estimated cost figured in 2011 will be about $24,115,000, of which $15,799,500 is slated to be appropriated from the FAA, which as part of the federal budget is already contributing to a gross deficit of $16.4 trillion, of which $9.7 trillion is debt held by the public. $3,132,000 is slated to be appropriated from the Connect Oregon Fund, Oregon being the state currently facing a $341 million drop in projected revenue, causing more than $13 million in cuts to providers of in-home care to seniors and people with disabilities, erases just over $200 million in planned spending, and uses much of a $56 million legal windfall from tobacco giant Philip Morris to avoid more serious cuts. $1,113,500 is slated to be appropriated from a local match from Salem, plus $4,070,000 in funding from a source currently unidentified. That's $5,183,500 from a city that is currently facing a budget shortfall and is considering cuts in operating costs of $4 million and has already eliminated over 30 positions, most of which are police and fire personnel. The following are statements taken from the 5-year fiscal forecast prepared by the city manager, Linda Norris, and her staff. Revenue growth will not keep pace with the growth in operating expenses. Compression from real estate market value in relation to assessed valuation will cause a loss in property tax revenue. Economic trends do not anticipate a financial recovery resulting in increased revenue. The beginning working capital will deplete rapidly to cover operating expenses. Most revenue sources are flat or declining. Mandated public employees retirement system PERS rates are expected to increase every 2 years. There will be some increases into personnel service costs each year. The city has unmet building maintenance and system needs that are addressed only marginally in the budget and financial forecast. All of this in addition to the planned or in-process projects, $30.7 million per year for 30 years for the estimated cost of a new bridge from Salem to West Salem, $37,178,000 for bicycle improvement projects, $114,773,000 for pedestrian projects that include shared use paths, sidewalk infill, and pedestrian safety improvement projects at intersections, $9,500,000 along with the $250,000.
Excuse me, but your time is up. Thank you very much for coming down. Are there questions? All right, thank you very much.
Well, wise stewards of taxpayer money.
I'm sorry, no, your time is up. All right, next signed up is Ray Burstead, and following him is Kate Jowdis.
Thank you, Mayor Peterson and City Council members, City Manager Norris and Randall. Thank you. Thank you for your dedication to Salem and all that you do for our community on this council. Approval of the airport master plan update is a huge step towards planning for the future of the entire Willamette Valley. Family-wage jobs come from companies who are very sensitive to transportation needs. Our ability to attract these companies is aided immensely with our ability to provide for their transportation services. The 75-plus acres of prime industrial land at the airport will, without question, be much more attractive to these companies with the passing of the airport master plan update. Recruitment of new industries is a difficult process. It doesn't happen overnight, oftentimes takes years. This plan is a vision for years in the future. The competition among communities is intense. I would add the analogy that if you don't want it to happen in Salem, just put a sign up saying, go someplace else, and they will. The approval of the airport master plan will signal to those people and those industries outside of Salem that we can grow their business here and that we will. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there questions for Mr. Burstead? All right, thank you for coming down. Kate Jowdis and then Mark Shipman.
Hello, Mayor, and everybody else. My name is Kate Jowdis. I live in Ward 1. I'm the Communications Director for Marion and Polk County Americans for Prosperity. And Americans for Prosperity nationwide has around 1.9 million members. In the state chapter, we have over 25,000 members. Marion County, in Marion and Polk County, we represent around 1,600 members. The reason I'm telling you this is because a few weeks ago, somebody in this room said something like, just because we get email from 10 people doesn't mean we're going to change our mind. Well, behind every email, behind every letter, behind every single phone call, there's at least 100, if not thousands, of people that feel exactly the same way. We think you've forgotten what this volunteer job of yours is all about. It's not about you or what you want. It's about us. It's about we the people. And I am we the people. You guys are we the people. We're all we the people, right? Everybody in this room and outside these walls. So every time you raise fees and try to tax us into the poorhouse, and every time you spend or give away a pile of money, and every time you make a sweetheart deal with somebody, it has a direct effect on all of our lives. Several months ago, Mr. Nanke said that he was reading the Federalist Papers. In addition to what he said, did you realize that the Constitution was written to protect us from the government? And this is way too much government. So regarding the airport, this is way too much government.
Thank you. Are there questions of Ms. Jaudes? All right, Mark Shipman, and following him, looks like Dennis Thompson.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the council. My name is Mark Shipman, and I'm here this evening speaking on this issue as the president of the Salem Area Chamber of Commerce, located at 1110 Commercial Street Northeast here in Salem. The Salem Area Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors unanimously supports the prompt adoption of the airport master plan. It is extremely important that Salem residents understand the importance of Salem's airport to our local economy. Businesses move people around the world from the Salem airport, and the infrastructure in place there serves as our gateway to a regional, state, and national and global economy. Freight is delivered and shipped. We also have major industries that rely directly on the airport and the continued investments in its infrastructure. Garmin AT, for example, employs more than 320 people out there at the airport. Of those 320 employees, more than 230 of them are engineers that make in excess of $100,000 a year. That's significant to our economy. The data that you have at your disposal this evening regarding aircraft operations illustrates the need for the adoption of the airport master plan tonight. Businesses and employers tied to the airport are in need of improved infrastructure, as outlined in the master plan, to accommodate their current operational needs. The airport runway extension project within the airport master plan is not new. It was included in the earlier 1987 and 1997 editions of the Salem Airport Master Plan. The difference this time is that the community has a good chance of receiving funding for those projects outlined in the master plan, not only funded, but also constructed. It's crucial that we act now as a community by adopting the master plan tonight. Let's send a signal to the FAA and to the world that Salem is serious about economic development and jobs for its residents. On behalf of the Salem Area Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors, we urge you to approve staff recommendation. And on a personal note, I'd like to add that 15 years ago, our family lived at 1245 Cottage Street Northeast. I can remember when our boys were young, we would sit on the back deck on evenings, and we lived right in the flight path. And we watched the planes come and go. The planes test landing there at the airport, and also the jets. It gave a great opportunity for our young boys to sit there and watch the planes, talk about where they were coming and going, who was on those planes, what were they doing, what were they planning on doing in Salem. And it was something that we enjoyed. It was great to sit there with the boys and talk about that. And so for many that would oppose this and think it's a bad idea, there were several of us as residents that actually enjoyed watching the planes come and go, even when we were in the midst of the flight path. So thank you for your consideration tonight. I would urge that you approve staff recommendation. I'm happy to address any questions of the council at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Shipman. Are there questions? All right, we appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dennis Thompson and then Ron Peters.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. I'm Dennis Thompson. I live at 1495 Seattle Slough Drive, Southeast, 97317. I live right underneath the egress and exit area that the National Guard flies out to the east, and I'm very familiar with noise. And it doesn't bother me because I know that those folks are training to do something that might help me or people that I care about or people that I don't even know. Was a longtime member of the Airport Advisory Commission. I was chairman for 1 year. And most of what I intended to say has been said more eloquently by the previous two speakers, but I really do want to emphasize the economic engine and the potential at the airport that most of the community doesn't seem to be aware of. And I'm glad that the Garmin situation and the average salaries of some of those folks, Garmin is here by choice. We would not want them to leave. That's a real plum in our city. And I'm reminded of, I went to one of the hearings at the airport, and as some of the speakers were talking, I was reminded of another fierce battle in this community 40 years ago, about 2 blocks downtown. And it really was a battle. It was my introduction to city politics, and I was astonished. I was a young man. But the decisions were made, and we now have one of the few cities that I'm aware of our size that has a vibrant downtown. And yeah, there's issues, and there always will be issues. But the foresight of that council there's a parallel in the airport. We need to prepare for the future, and we will have an opportunity in the future as other aircraft are developed and the economic circumstances change. There will be a time where airline service will be considered again. Some of the noise issues are going to be ameliorated by moving the runway 200 feet plus south. There will be a lot more altitude on departure, and there will be quite a noise reduction. I think I'll stop there. And thank you for your service. I really appreciate it. I know the hours.
Well, thank you, and we thank you for your previous service on the Airport Advisory Commission and other projects for the city. Are there questions for Mr. Thompson? All right, thank you for coming down. Ron Peters and then Ted Campbell.
Madam Mayor and City Councilors, thank you for this opportunity in coming talking about the master plan. I strongly urge you councilors to accept this master plan. This master plan is about safety, it's about jobs. We need this to upgrade the infrastructure of the airport. And as one of the many commercial businesses on the airport, I see the need for that infrastructure daily. It's also needed for an integral part of the future growth of a vital economic engine for this city. Many of you have availed yourself of time to come out and take a look at the airport. You also took time to listen to the wonderful presentation by one of the former airport administrators, letting you know what this airport does for your city. And I thank you for that. It's about jobs, today and also in the future. There are 5 commercial operators at the airport. I help manage one, Salem Aviation Fueling. I see on a daily basis the need for the infrastructure, the need for upgrades, the need for a master plan to show the community that we're serious about businesses coming to Salem. Our business is down 40%. I know all the businesses on the field are also down considerably. We've had to lay off a number of people and not employ folks. We've had to cut hours. If you look at the restaurant, they've had to cut hours because many folks just are not coming because the opportunity is not there for them to bring their aircraft in. This is about jobs in the future. We need a plan. We need a constructive plan. We need an aggressive plan to let the businesses and the people out there, both in the city, regional, and national to say Salem is a place to come and do business. Look at Garmin. They came. They're flying in their jets from back east. They're using it for test flights. Their doing that allows me to fuel them. Their pilots buy meals at the airport. Their electronics are taken care of both by them and also other businesses on the field. It's just not one point of where one person makes money. It trickles down all the way across the board. So I urge the City Council, because of jobs, because of infrastructure needs, and for a future to this city, approve the master plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your testimony. Are there questions? All right. Thank you again for coming. Ted Campbell and then Marianne Liebold.
Madam Mayor, Board, my name's Ted Campbell. I'm the chair for Polk County AFP, and I'm here to talk about the airport. Last week on the 20th of February on KXL News, the CEO of Seaport Airlines was on there, and they were saying he's one of the best CEOs in the nation now. And he stated he'd never taken any incentives from any cities or counties or anything, or free parking fees or anything, to bring his business into those cities. Now, he's a liar, and you need to get your 10,000 plus parking fees dollars back from him. I'm hoping he's a liar. Colonel, in year 2000, I believe, we moved 5,000 troops, 6 Blackhawks out of Portland in 3 days. We couldn't have done that down here in the staging. Also, we moved 750 vehicles. That went by rail, as Dan knows, and that couldn't have been done here. So that is not right. Industrial areas, to build industrial areas. This weekend I took a trip around Troutdale and Hillsborough. Troutdale, half of Alcoa aluminum buildings are still sitting empty. That if I was going to start a manufacturing business, I'd go and use one of those that's already built instead of trying to get all the permits. Hillsborough has 10 or 12 in the industrial park that are sitting empty. You'll have to bring industry in here. You'll give them tax incentives or breaks, and who's going to pay for that except us taxpayers? It'll be added to our taxes to give them tax breaks, and that's not fair to us. We really don't need an airport where or a bigger airport. We're this close to Portland, and as you've seen before, nobody's going to pay $100 to fly to Portland when they can drive up there and park. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming down. Are there questions for Mr. Campbell? All right, thank you. Hello, Marianne. Welcome.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you on behalf of the Airport Advisory Commission. I'm Marianne Liebold. I'm the Vice Chair of the Airport Advisory Commission, and I live at 3464 Turner Road here in Salem. I'm speaking to you this evening since the Commission Chair, Tim Hay, is out of town. The members of the Airport Advisory Commission voted unanimously earlier this month to recommend that our City Council approve the draft master plan. The draft master plan has been created with the help of a well-known and highly respected consulting firm, Mead & Hunt. There were 4 meetings of the Master Plan Advisory Committee where a number of airport stakeholders contributed, so that the elements of this draft master plan have been considered and developed, taking many points of view into consideration. There was also impressive public comment and participation. I believe that it's a sound master plan and should be approved by the City Council so that it can move on to the Federal Aviation Administration for approval, and then the master plan can be adopted and we can continue to gather community support and funding to make Salem McNary Field an economic centerpiece in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there questions for Ms. Liebold? Appreciate you coming and appreciate your service on the Airport Advisory Commission as well. Thank you. Craig Hudson, and then, is it Mickey Barnes? Is that right? Okay.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. Excuse me. I'm suffering from a little bit of a head cold, so I apologize in advance. My name is Craig Hudson. I work at Garmin, which is located at the Salem Airport, 2345 Turner Road. I'm here to speak in favor of your approval of the airport master plan. I'd like to give you a little bit of history of Garmin and their service here in Salem. The company was established in '83 as Tomorrow. It's moved into its current location on Turner Road, which is adjacent to the airport, in 1985. Access to the airport was a key factor in location selection at that time. Acquired by Garmin International from United Parcel Service in August of 2003, the name was changed from UPS Aviation Technologies to Garmin AT at that time. At that point, we did a huge expansion of our facility, completed in 2008, and that was on Turner Road. This expansion increased the size of our building from 52,000 square feet to 115,000 square feet. Now, that was in addition to a 6,000 square foot hangar that was constructed in 2009, and we opened up that space to 33,000 square feet following the acquisition by Garmin. So our total facility on Turner Road is close to 150,000 square feet. I'm trying to give you an idea of the kind of the impact that the airport has had and Garmin has brought into the city of Salem. In 2010, last year, Garmin continued their commitment to Salem by opening up a facility on Fairview Industrial. We have 70 associates over there and a contact center. The impact of Salem AT on Salem and the surrounding vicinity, we've invested heavily because of our location at the Salem Airport. Contact center opening last year. Today we have 325 employees, and that's covering the two facilities, Turner Road and Fairview Industrial. When Garmin acquired the company in 2003, the engineering staff was relatively small. We've actually tripled that in the last approximately 9 years. So that's had a significant impact both on the local economy, including taxes and individual spending. Garmin AT also purchases a lot of components for manufacturing, local services, and we've worked closely with a lot of businesses across Salem over the years as well. So how does that master plan affect Garmin and Garmin AT? Well, we've developed manufacture avionics. We need direct access to the airport. Its services are central and critical to our business at Garmin. It's essential that Garmin AT be co-located at an airport that has up-to-date navigational aids, has the ability that has equipment and facilities that can support safety, and has the essential services and support that we're looking at, including as the airport grows. The master plan helps assure the facilities and infrastructure support the current and future needs of all users. Updated nav aids again, improved safety. The ability to attract other businesses into Salem would be another important increase in the economic viability of Salem Airport and the surrounding area. And then just in closing, Salem, and the engineers that work at Garmin AT, many of them are pilots, myself included.
I'm sorry, I have to tell you
that's
your
fine.
time is up.
We appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you. Are there questions from council? Thank you very much for coming. We appreciate your testimony this evening. And Mickey Barnes, and then David Barnes.
Okay, thank you, Mayor, thank you, members of the council, for hearing my testimony.
Can you speak up into the black microphone? There you go. Yeah, that one. Thanks.
I'm here on behalf of Oregon Aviation Watch. We're a nonprofit organization that's attempting to address the negative impacts of aviation activity on our communities. What I want to talk about is this Connect Oregon grant that is apparently going to subsidize this runway in part. I've been reviewing the grant from Oregon, from Connect Oregon 2, and it says as far as I can determine, the expansion proposal is completely out of date, and it contains information that's no longer accurate. The project construction was slated to begin June 2009. This did not happen. It is now 2012. 2.5 years have elapsed. During that time, the estimated cost of the project has skyrocketed, while the need for the project, which was doubtful from the outset, and this is stated right in the application, but it was doubtful from the outset, and yet they pushed forward with funding it. I'm going to suggest that you declare the Connect Oregon 2 grant invalid, and the reasons I will lay forth here. The purpose of the project is to extend the primary runway safety area by up to 1,000 feet. That's a quote from the grant. The total projected cost at the time of the initial submission was $3,025,000. or $3.25 million. By September of 2011, when the proposed runway expansion increased to 1,200 feet, the cost of the project more than tripled, when it supposedly topped out at $11 million. However, now we're reading on the draft master plan update from February 2012 that the total cost of the project has increased by an additional $3 million to $14 million, and further states future dollar figures may change based on inflationary variables, future material and labor costs. But in other words, between May of 2011 and February of 2012, that's about 9 months, folks, the estimated cost of this expansion has quadrupled. It has quadrupled. I mean, that is one large reason why I think it should be subjected to public hearings to review this, because all of these amendments, as far as I can tell, were made by City Council. I'm not seeing any indication of hearings to address this. Now, the application packet included two modal project reports. One was from the ODOT, and it came right out and said it didn't recommend funding this project at this time. It identified the project as ranking low in regards to the needs of the freight system. The project, this is a quote, "The project did not demonstrate an economic benefit to the state. The job-generating potential was not well documented."
Excuse me, your time is up. And I forgot to ask you when you started speaking, we need your address or your ward number, please.
P.O. Box 838, Banks, Oregon.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Where do I?
Are there questions of council?
Go upstairs.
Okay,
Yeah.
let me keep this one, but you can.
Thank you. David Barnes and then Brent DeHart.
Thank you, Mayor, councilors. David Barnes, I live in Banks, Oregon. I represent Oregon Aviation Watch. Our organization is involved in this because we bring a statewide perspective to airport expansions. A lot of people are just looking at this when it's their first experience with an airport expansion. There are patterns, and one is that a master plan never recommends reducing the size of an airport. What we would like to focus on is that there is no need for a longer runway. I have a lot of research here that Mickey began describing to you. We're going to submit it in writing so that you can review it. But a couple of key points I want to bring out are that the slideshow on the master plan said that it was based on current figures. Well, the current figures were drawn from 2007, which was the only year that Salem McNary booked enough flight operations to qualify for the FAA money that they're trying to tap. There were over 10,000 operations for 1 year, and it was 5 years ago. Through the process, that number has been carried forward. The cost of the project has ramped up. Nobody has gone back to look at the figures and see that they have ramped down. There's no commercial flight service here anymore. What's the money for the passenger terminal about? You know, you need to look at the basis for this Connect Oregon money. It's gone. It's not there anymore. And something that was said about the bridge project earlier, about how money for some projects comes from one pot and some from another. Connect Oregon money is lottery money. It's state general fund money, and you can use it to make your 10% match to the federal funds if you can get them, or you could do a lot of other things with them in the way of transportation infrastructure around the city. That's somewhere between $1.5 to $3.2 million. So just to hit a few more points here, the assumption that Salem McNary will evolve into a flourishing commercial facility is difficult to justify. For example, in Portland, they gave millions, $4.25 million for a de-icing project, $6 million for a runway extension, and the airport usage has gone way down. If the usage of Salem McNary is down, it's not because of people can't fly in, it's because it's down all over the state. Portland, for instance, is operating at 1987 levels, and they have huge capacity left. So there's a lot of just claims in the Connect Oregon grant that really, really need to be called into question. If you love airports, you love airplanes, that's great. I haven't heard one advocate yet
Thank
that
you.
justified a longer runway.
Your time is up, and
Nobody
I need
needs
to
a longer.
confirm your address, Mr. Barnes.
Sorry, it's P.O. Box 838, Banks, Oregon.
Okay. Thank you very much. Were there any questions for Mr. Barnes? All right, thank you for coming. Good evening, Mr. DeHart. Welcome.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members. Appreciate the opportunity to speak at the public hearing. A lot of my comments have been covered very well by other speakers. Get this okay? So if I could, I'll try to hit a couple bullet points and a couple of comments and topics that have not been touched upon. First of all, from doing business at the airport, I'd like you to all know there's already examples of taxable investment and taxable activity that is in Salem already because we have a longer runway than other places. And so some of these things that we anticipate could come into the community, there's reason to believe we could do so and attract more tax-paying investment and more tax-paying activity. And the fact that it's not a new concept, and this is 20 years old. Folks, we're just talking about planning now of laying the concrete and bringing outside money that's being confiscated from the aviation using public by the FAA. The question is, are we going to use those FAA funds in Salem, or are they going to use it in Savannah, Georgia, or somewhere else? This is transportation infrastructure. It's transportation infrastructure. It's very similar to Councilor Sullivan seeking funds for an I-5 interchange at Kubler, or for a railroad project going to expand a railroad field. This is aviation transportation infrastructure, and we should keep that in mind. It's not going to materially alter the quality of life for anybody in an immediate sense. It is about jobs now, though, and in the future growth. There's a few things about activity I think you should also be aware of that we haven't heard of tonight. And I'll give you an example of some of the kinds of entities and companies that come into Salem. I'll give you a short list of the ones that came off the top of my head. Obviously lobbyists, since we're the state capital, but nobody's too happy about that. But how about Wachovia, which is now Bank of America, Target, Costco, the FBI has been here, the NFL planes have been here, the Pac-12, boat manufacturing, insurance companies, Miracle-Gro, hoteliers, casino entertainers are flying in and out. Sanyu, of course, and Walmart, when they're expanding. Bridge builders are here. National contractors of various different kinds. And from our own community, manufacturers that the community is not familiar with that are using this airport that manufacture batteries, electronic parts, and medical devices. Other types of uses that are silent, that you don't hear about very much: forest firefighting, coming in and out, refueling, fighting fires in our forest. Search and rescue was mentioned. Life flights, angel flights for people in medical emergencies. Farming uses, Christmas tree harvesting, package delivery, and of course the military training. Police and fire training for our own community happens in our facility, for which we need a plan. There's tourism and sightseeing activities happen at the airport, some years more than others. Mapping projects, weather services. The list goes on and on. Because they're not familiar with them does not mean that all these activities don't take place, and they do. I want you to be somewhat aware of the companies, the organizations, and the activities that take place at Salem Airport. I encourage you to pass the master plan, accept the staff recommendation, and pass it to the FAA for approval. Thank you for the time.
Thank you very much. Are there questions for Mr. DeHart? All right, we appreciate you coming and testifying, and appreciate your service in Salem on the Salem City Council.
Thank you all.
So much. All right, Pete Matthey, and then Mike Roberson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Try and check. 6345 Joseph Street, Southeast, Salem, Oregon, 97317. I represent myself and also a citizen of the United States of America. And I think this is a great plan. I have nothing against the plan. It's just the timing it's the timing. I'm extremely concerned about our country and financial, and the Marion County and Salem, Oregon, with the budget, etc. In other words, this is not the time to spend money on things that really are not absolutely necessary. I came to this meeting, to the airport, primarily because I was interested in the financial part of it. And all these things sounded real good. And one of the things I asked, the meeting was excellent. It was done very well. I'd never been to one like that before, where they had a moderator, and then people signed up if they wanted to speak, and they came up, and as they spoke, notes were taken by one of the staff, and that these are the notes. One of the things that I asked for, because of the fact this is a money-making thing, one way or the other. So I wanted to see the Salem Airport, what did they make in the last couple of years? Were they getting more or less? And I really didn't get that out of here. As the gentleman said, it's not possible to predict if new businesses would be attracted to the airport specifically because of a longer runway. So consequently, I didn't get that, and like I say, there's so many things that may be somewhat frivolous, and this would bother me a great deal. So consequently, like I say, I don't have anything against it, but at this time, and I've seen so many of the projects, for example, I've heard that taxes are going up. I even heard that they're going to tax the rainwater off our house because of the problem with taxes. If I'm not mistaken, you can correct me if I'm wrong, we're letting off some of our policemen and some of our safety and firemen. This to me is extremely, extremely dangerous at this time. So I appreciate you hearing me, and I think it's a good plan, but not at this time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming to testify. Are there questions? All right, thank you. Mike Roberson and then Leslie Polson.
Madam Mayor, City Council, thank you for the opportunity tonight to speak. I'm Mike Robertson, 3100 Ryan Drive, Southeast Salem, and I'm here tonight I'm the owner of Robertson RV Center. I'm located right in the lower right-hand corner of the map on Turner Road, 3760 Turner Road, and so we're just right at the end of runway 31. I mean, we're right in the glide path, so south of the airport. I want to let you know that I'm for the project and do support it. I know that it's an important part of the infrastructure of Salem, and I know that the economic impact now and in the future is going to be positive. But my one concern is that the future of my property is kind of predicated on, the height easement that we're already under a height easement at this time when we, built the facility 5 years ago, and I think it's around 70 feet right now, and we don't know exactly what the height easement is going to be when and if this project goes forward. My concern is that the value and the use of my property may be impacted adversely if the height easement is too low. So we've met with airport staff, and they've been a great help in giving us a plan to present and put together that will give us an idea of what the height restrictions will be. So, we're just hoping that those, the outcome of that study will be positive, and that we can wholeheartedly support the project.
Thank you very much. Are there questions for Mr. Roberson? Thank you for coming down. We appreciate your testimony. All right, Leslie Polson.
Hello, my name is Leslie. My name is Leslie Polson, and I also am part of the NEN contingent. I live at 930 Garnet Street. I just want to call to mind that one of the things that we love about Salem is our old houses and our ability to be able to walk to everything. The nice thing about the airport plan is that it gives us a plan, but I do want to advocate for us to be able to coexist together so that we can live in our homes without a lot of noise pollution and that people can have their jobs. But remember that what people like about Salem is all the hard work that all of us do, and many of us who keep our homes looking nice, we are also just as much a part of a tourist attraction to Salem as the jobs. So when you look at the plan, remember that we also live here, and our homes are what you enjoy when you come through our neighborhoods going to work or going home.
Thank you. Are there questions? All right. Thank you very much. We appreciate you coming to testify this evening. All right. We have heard from everyone who was signed up. Is there anyone else in the audience that had wanted to sign up and wasn't able to do so? All right. Okay. We do have staff coming back to further answer any questions from counselors. Mr. Wales?
Take it from the chair.
Oh, you'll just take it from right there? All right. So questions of John Wales or other staff? Counselor Bennett and then Counselor Dickey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll start with John. John, this has been on, this runway extension, from what I understood from testimony, has been on the books since 1987?
That's correct.
Similarly configured? I'm just curious. In the master plan, as a part of the master plan?
It's been a project in the master plan, in the 1987 plan, and it was continued in 1997. Both iterations of the plan had a different length that were proposed, but it has been a project in the plan since 1987.
One, if I may, Madam Mayor,
yes, certainly.
Just a couple more. One of the things, I mean, we each have here testimony that we find compelling, and my friend Peter and Paul here had, I thought, some very interesting testimony on the impact on the national deficit, and this feeling of kind of a deficit spending as adding to the national debt and becoming part of what is a broader societal issue and political issue. And I wondered where these FAA funds come from that would be used here. I heard one piece of testimony from Brent Hart on the FAA funds coming exclusively from airplane, passenger, et cetera, users, and I want you to kind of explain that.
Sure. The FAA's program for funding airport and transportation improvements is funded out of a program called the Aviation Trust Fund. And that trust fund, the source of that money comes from any of you when you buy a ticket on an airline. It comes from such fuel taxes, cargo taxes that the FAA collects from various users on airports. It's a trust fund that is dedicated only to aviation airport improvements. It's not a fund that the Congress can take and reapply to other projects or to reduce the deficit. Congress can decide not to spend it, but it is a dedicated fund that is used for aviation infrastructure projects.
One more, I guess.
Okay.
Okay. One of the numbers that was quoted, and as I recall, it added, the number added up local funding that would be required to achieve all of the capital expenditures included in this plan, or proposed in this plan, and it hit about almost $5.2 million. Is that about right? Is that the way this would work? I was trying to follow the funding, because quite a bit of, it was Paul Jowdis, and he was giving us a substantial number, or set of numbers. It was going pretty fast for me, but I caught one, 5.183 million of local funding.
The funding from the FAA requires, and this has recently changed, a 10% match for that funding. So a runway project of 14 million would require a $1.4 million match. What the city, and so if our master plan has a capital improvement program of 24 million, over the 20 years, it would be a $2.4 million match that would be required. Let me just make sure, Kevin, if I've got that correct.
Good evening, Kevin Mulcaster with Mead and Hunt. John, your assumption is correct. The airport improvement program just recently changed from a 5% local match to a 10% local match. That is effective just this past February. I believe February 14th, that legislation was passed. And the only potential difference there, John, would be if there was an ineligible project that would raise the local match or participation level.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
I'll do another one real quick while you're gone.
Oh, yeah. Mass hysteria breaks out.
Thanks. I just have a quick question, and I apologize if this was covered in the staff report or your report. It's been a long night already. So we heard some testimony about some possibility of some schools being affected by increased airport noise in the future. Was the school district at all involved in this or given an opportunity to respond to this master plan?
I'm not aware that the school district, they've certainly been invited to participate in the process. I'm not aware that they have actually attended any of our meetings or have been received any comments. No, they're shaking their heads. No, we haven't received any.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Councilor Nanke.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A couple of questions, and that just brought up one. The schools in question are to the north, and everything we're talking about improvement-wise is shifting our noise profile to the south. So essentially, the noise that people hear now will be reduced no matter where you are compared to where you are now if improvements to the airport follow the master plan design, correct?
That's correct, Councilor. The modeling that's been done so far at the master plan level for the runway is showing that the noise levels are shifting further to the south, which is more in toward the industrial area than toward the northern neighborhoods. That actually is going to be dealt with in more detail during the environmental analysis, the environmental assessment that's being done. Noise is a critical component and one of the critical elements of that, and so it's going to be discussed in more detail. But that's the conclusion that the master plan that we've in our preliminary studies have indicated.
And second question, in regards to the local match for funds, those would come from the airport fund, not from general fund dollars or any taxpayer dollars locally?
Initially, we've secured, and you've heard reference to it, $2.6 million from Connect Oregon that can be applied to the airport project or to the runway project. Some of that money has been used to pay for the master plan. Some of that money has been used to pay for to fund the environmental assessment. It can also be used for construction. It can be used for design of the runway, and it can also be used as a match for the runway project. So that money has already been secured and can be used. And so there would not be a need for airport fund or general fund initially for that project.
So where do Connect 2 grant dollars come from?
Connect Oregon, $2. I think it was mentioned earlier, they are lottery dollars from the state of Oregon. The state of Oregon, for probably about 8 years, I may not be accurate, I think we've gone through 3 Connect Oregon programs. There may be a 4th on the horizon, where traditionally the state has set aside $100 million for transportation improvements, for air, for rail, I think navigation projects, to be funded on a competitive basis, and communities can propose and can for a variety of projects. This city proposed back in 2000, I think it was 2007, for Connect Oregon 2 monies, and was awarded in 2008 and received $2.6 million. It's absolutely correct. There was a time limit on that money. It was running out, and you all may recall that last year we went back and had further discussions with ODOT and asked for an extension on that. That grant was amended back in September by the council, and we have secured that money for this project, for the first for the runway project.
Okay, can I have one last?
All right.
Could a private operator, one, run Salem Airport, and two, would they be eligible for all the grants that the city is looking at now?
I believe a private operator could run. Whether they could be eligible for all the grants, certainly the FAA grants, I believe. Is that, I don't want to, maybe I mean Mr.
Still question.
John.
Good evening. I'm John Pascal, the airport administrator. It's a difficult question to answer. I can let you know that one of my previous airports was managed by an airport authority, which is essentially a private organization that runs airports. But the grant sponsor remained the county. The FAA does require that an organization with financial backing to secure those grants would have to be the grant sponsor. It's unlikely, and Bob, maybe you can help me with this in your years of experience, but I think it would be unlikely that the FAA would allow grant funding to a private organization to fund a public airport.
The only reason I'm coming to the podium is because John was looking for help. He basically got that answer right. The FAA typically has a county, city, or port authority that provides the administration and financial support. The FAA, for a number of years, did have a pilot project to allow private operators, and I believe the city of Indianapolis did attempt with, I think, a firm called B&A to run it as a private operation. Since that time, they didn't have real good results with that, and I think have foreclosed that pilot project. But regardless of that, the second part of your question was, would you be eligible for the grants? And the answer would be yes. Regardless of whose authority it is, the authority has the ability to secure FAA grants, so long as they agree to provide by the assurances of those grants.
Thank you. Could you introduce yourself, please?
I apologize, Mayor and Council. My name is Bob Noble, and I am an advisor to the City of Salem on this particular project.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you being here to help answer questions this evening. Let's see, Councillor Clausen and then Councillor Clem.
Question for John, just for clarification for me, for individual projects to move forward off of the master plan, it still takes a council approval, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
And Councillor Clem?
Same question.
Oh, all right, fine. Are there any further questions? Just Councillor Clausen.
You know, John, we've had the conversation as council in work sessions. I think it'd be beneficial. Could you do for everybody else who's here tonight, could you do a real quick summary of the increases in estimated costs from the inception of this expansion of the runway? This is probably the single biggest issue we've been hearing from the public in terms of what's at issue on this master plan, which is the point of my last question, that for that to move forward, it still takes a council approval. But then also, you know, we started at 1.6 million or something, and then we're up to a lot bigger number. Could you do a quick summary of the history of that?
Well,
when the council first initiated a runway, envisioned a runway expansion back in 2000, oh, I'm sorry, is that better? Yeah. 2007, and applied for the Connect Oregon funding, it had some money that was available to the city as far as a federal grant, approximately $2 million from when Delta was here. My understanding was at that time that the initial plan was to expand the runway approximately 700 feet. And the initial scope of the budget that was prepared, or estimates that were prepared at that time, indicated that it was probably about $2.6 million in Connect Oregon money and about $2 million in FAA money to complete that project. When we were awarded the grant, we had to, because there was federal money in it, get a justification from the FAA to expand the runway. And during that process, we had to do a very detailed analysis of what the need was. And that actually took a couple of years, and this is where we lost time on that, to determine what the need for the expanded runway would be. The conclusion of that analysis came back that were on not just the operations at the airport, but the critical aircraft operations, and those were operations that for aircraft, primarily small jet and actually large jet users of the facility. The FAA had a requirement, or has a requirement, that in order to expand a runway, you need 500 of those critical operations on an annual basis. This study back in 2008 showed it was 1,600 at Salem Airport. Since then, so to continue in the process, what happened is that what the FAA said was that of the finding that we didn't, a 700-foot runway expansion wasn't justified, but a 1,200-foot runway was justified. That threw the whole dynamics of this project into a need for review, because what had been budgeted and what had been scoped was a much smaller expansion. And so what council directed us to do last year was to go back and to look at the funding and the requirements that would be needed to do that larger project. And once we, what that involved was that when you start looking at a much larger extension, you need more taxiways, you need other infrastructure, other lighting systems. So it was a much larger project. I think last spring we estimated it to be approximately $9.5 million. And I'm going to have Kevin verify all this for me. What we've done in the master plan process is to recognize that there are other needs in this airport. It's not just the runway. If we're going to do the runway, we're going to need to upgrade the lighting system, which is aging already. We're going to have to relocate the navigation system and upgrade that. And there are going to be taxiways that are going to have to be put in place to support it. In addition to that, we've also assumed during this process that there's going to have to be mitigation budget for noise and for possibly land use. That money was estimated in this budget as well. And so part of the reason it's grown is that as we've gone through this process, we've been able to articulate what the needs are going to be more, and we're trying to plan for them and put them into the budget, and that's where we've gotten to where we are now. I would like to bring Kevin Mulcaster up, though, just to verify the need study that was done to justify, because I think that's really what it was our first phase of the project, of the 2008 study, of to what was involved with that, because it really was a unique effort.
Sure, just one correction regarding the funding breakdown. The mitigation that's involved in that cost estimate is not for noise mitigation, but for wetland mitigation.
Okay,
we're not anticipating there'll be any need for noise mitigation with this project. Backing up to phase one of the master plan, as John mentioned, because there was federal money involved in this process, the FAA requested that the justification be provided for the runway extension. And at that time, we were anticipating that a 700-foot runway extension was what we were looking at. After we got involved in the runway needs assessment, is what we called it, of phase one of the master plan, it looked at in detail who was flying into Salem and out of Salem on a daily basis, whether they're based here or whether they're visiting from another community. And that, as John mentioned, identified what our most demanding aircraft are. And that led us to a group of business jets, not a single business jet, but a group of business jets that have, as John mentioned, in 2008, operated over 1,600 times on an annual basis in operations, either a takeoff or a landing. Since that time, that number has declined. The FAA database that shows that we use right now, just doing a quick assessment of what the operational levels are since that 2008 data was collected, indicate that we are still significantly exceeding the 500 operation threshold. For 2009 through 2011, we're over 1,000 operations per year, so we're seeing a decline. But I also want to give a caveat on that as well, is that that number are only that new data from 2009 on is only from operations that filed a flight plan. That doesn't take into account other operations that were missing because the tower's only operational from dawn to dusk. We're not taking into account operations that aren't filing flight plans, or ones, frankly, that the federal government missed. Where our previous study in 2008 was much more detailed. It used a combination of various methods to collect the data, including interviews with pilots and companies, user surveys, and also looking at these various databases that are available through the FAA. So it was a much more robust effort, which led us to the support from the federal government to extend this runway, not by 700 feet, but by 1,200 feet. Is there anything else?
Thank you.
Okay, I believe that were there still questions? Any further questions by council? All right, then I will close the public hearing. And Councilor Bennett, do you care to make a motion?
Councilor Tessler's
It'd be
ward.
Councilor Tessler, Madam Mayor.
I'm sorry. Councilor Tessler, this is in smack dab in your ward. Would you like to make the motion, please?
Yes, I would. Thank you. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and recommend staff recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilor Tessler and seconded by Councilor Clem to accept staff recommendation. Is there discussion, Councilor Tessler?
Yes, thank you. First, I'd like to give a big expression of gratitude to staff for the many, many, many hours of work that you put into this, and I really appreciate that. I'd also like to thank the community for their input today. And you know, what really struck me is that I sat here today and I listened to the fellow from Garmin who had the terrible cold. But, and Garmin is a very successful expanding business that, you know, if we pass the airport plan, that they could possibly expand even more in our community. And Garmin is, a very well-respected, solid business profile. By the way, they make excellent heart rate monitors, and I think they should give Salem residents a discount on them. But, however, I do not want the neighborhood concerns that were mentioned tonight and the concerns for fiscal responsibility swept under the rug. They are real, and we should also be very carefully consider them and continue to address them in the future. I myself have had problems in the past with the airport, especially concerning helicopter schools. I feel that this plan will enable us to address those issues. And finally, I'd like to kind of say the Lieutenant Colonel, and unfortunately I can't remember his last name, he really said it best tonight, I thought. This is a plan. It's a plan. It's a vision. It's a roadmap. It's not a mandate. And this is not the end of public comment. This is not the end of public input. As a matter of fact, this is the beginning and the shaping of it. And, you know, I really do feel this is a roadmap for the future. We need it. It makes sense. Please join me in supporting it.
Thank you. Councillor Clem.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I just look at the picture in front of us, and I think about how much potential we have there for jobs. And I have neighbors who are not working. Not that they'd work here, but just the creation of jobs needing to be a priority. I also think about cuts that we're having to make to the city budget over the next 3 years and about $10 million. And the cuts to the school district. I see quite a bit of property tax out there that would come into the city and help fund basic essential services and education for the kids. So I see jobs, I see property taxes. I really see Salem open for business in a thoughtful, careful way to the neighborhood and to the environment.
Thank you. Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to second a lot of the comments made by Councillor Tessler. I thought she really hit on a number of them. I want to kind of just focus on one in particular because it was one of my neighborhoods that voted to oppose expansion of the runway. And I think it's important to remember that's not what's on the table tonight. It's a master plan for the airport that continues a 20-year tradition of having a master plan or more for that airport. This thing's been in place since 1928, something like that. It's been quite a while, beyond most of our lifetimes. And that this runway extension has been on the table since 1987, I think is a testimony to the need to continue to discuss it. If we haven't talked beyond 20 years on this thing, we ought to keep talking or more. But I don't think we're dealing with the question of expansion of the runway tonight. That comes later. And there'll be a question on whether or not we ought to have lights that work out there so pilots coming in at night can be guaranteed when they come into Salem they can see it, which is not always the case right now. And that we update the navigation system and that we have a plan that guarantees at least, or if it doesn't guarantee, it offers the hope that Roscoe's will be open on any given lunch day, that Brent DeHart's operation will be pumping fuel, and that I hope as the future goes, as we move through this master planning and into other aspects of this, that the concerns of my neighbors, and one of them is virtually my next door neighbor who testified tonight, will be heard very clearly in the other processes that go on around the issues, because questions of noise and livability are real, and questions of financial responsibility are really important. And if we're making mistakes, which I think we can all see, I mean, you know, we can all disagree about how commercial passenger aviation should be dealt with, but $10,000 to Seaport was a bad idea. And it's one that every time I hear it, it's not a couple million, it's $10,000, but it's embarrassing that such a bad plan occurred. And I think it's the kind of thing that makes the public very uncomfortable. And when I hear another constituent of mine from the Grant neighborhood get up and say, I'm very worried about the local level of spending, about the national economy, I think we need to be very, very careful so that as we go through this, everything is disclosed very clearly, that every dollar is very carefully disclosed, that the issues of noise are dealt with. I think we've got a real credibility issue around this airport that we heard about tonight in some aspects, but those don't override the necessity to have a plan for that airport. It is just essential that if we're going to move ahead, any direction we're going to go, we need a plan to do it. And it's been too long. It's been almost 15 years since this thing was updated, and it's time to get this done. I hope we get this done tonight.
Thank you very much. Councillor Nanke.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Similar comments in regards to master planning process. I mean, we have them for everything we do. 10 technically we could say, no, in our master plan, we don't want a runway extension that's been there for 25 years because now the funding is there, and so people are concerned about the potential impacts of that. But it's still the master plan process. Any runway extension process will be on its own. Yeah, we could kill it tonight per se if we just yanked a runway extension out of a master plan. But we've already all sat through that, and staff would know that that would have been our desire at the time. Needs to stay in the master plan. We'll deal with the balance of it as it comes forward.
Thank you. Councillor Dickey?
Thank you, Mayor. What I was going to say, a lot of it has already been said, but really we need to have a plan, a working document that we can move forward with, keeping in mind the testimony we've heard tonight from people who have those concerns, who I'm sure will return if and when we get to the extension of the runway or any other problematic issues in regards to the cost or livability in our neighborhoods. But I think this is really important, and I think in some cases you have to have that master plan in place to be able to move forward with a project. There are some regulations that require that, so I think this is really important. And I am sensitive to some of those livability issues, the noise issues. I live very far north, very far from the airport, and there are times when that flight path comes right over my house, and it is very noisy, and it rattles the windows when some of those jets come in. So I'm very aware of that, and I can imagine if I lived much, much closer to the airport, how that could have an effect. But I was particularly compelled by Brent DeHart's testimony, which I was going to ask the question, but he answered it before I had the opportunity. What kinds of businesses and entities come in and use our airport? And the list was very long, as you heard, many things that most of us aren't even aware of. I mean, we might be aware of the planes flying in, but maybe not aware of what they are doing and what they are contributing to our community. So I think it's important to keep that in mind. The other thing that I just want to mention, in terms of this master plan, when I first got on this council, I saw a lot of things where I was like, why didn't they think about this 35 years ago? And I just hope that, we can create some space so 15 or 20 or 30 years from now, someone goes, I'm glad that they at least gave us some flexibility now. So I think it is important to plan for the future, and just in terms of technology and that kind of thing that even 25 years ago we couldn't have planned for, we can at least think something down the road is going to be there, that this will be important to have this in place.
Thank you. I'd like to add my personal comment that we need to also remember that Salem is a major Oregon city. We are currently third, sometimes we're second in population. We seem to bounce back and forth with Eugene. But we are a city the size of which should not ever think of itself as not having a progressive airport plan and a proper airport action. I think that staff and the community that have worked to bring this plan together have done an admirable job, and I strongly speak in favor of this motion. Thank you. All right, other comments or questions? All right, I will call for the question. All those in favor of the staff recommendation on the master plan for the airport, say aye. 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 Opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. I'm going to ask for about an 8-minute break so that those who are going to be leaving the chambers can do so, and to give our council a little bit of a break.
There you have it. I have 3 of those.
Well, I'm better looking.
All right, we're going to reconvene.
Thank you.
Everybody back to, back to your seats, everyone in place. We're going to pick up exactly where we left off. And that is with our next public hearing. I'll find my page here. All right, would the city recorder please introduce our second public hearing for this evening?
The Salem City Council will now hold a public hearing to receive testimony on a city-initiated amendment to change the Salem Area Comprehensive Plan map designation from developing residential to mixed use, the West Salem Neighborhood Plan map designation from single multifamily to center, and the zone district from RA residential agriculture to NCMU neighborhood center mixed use for property 15 acres in size and located at the northwest corner of the intersection of Orchard Heights Road Northwest and Dokes Ferry Road Northwest. Testimony on the comprehensive plan change shall be directed toward applicable criteria set forth under SRC 64.090. Testimony on the zone change shall be directed to the criteria as set forth in SRC 113.150B. Testimony on the application of neighborhood center mixed use zone shall be directed to SRC 532.010. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the decision maker and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes an appeal of action to the Land Use Board of Appeals on that issue. A similar failure to raise constitutional issues relating to proposed conditions of approval precludes an action for damages in circuit court. Any participant may request an opportunity to present additional evidence, arguments, or testimony regarding the application. The City Council shall grant such request by continuing the public hearing or leaving the record open for additional written evidence, arguments, or testimony.
Thank you. And we have a staff report. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and City Councilors. My name is Cecilia DeSantis-Urbani, and I'm presenting the staff report for this city-initiated case this evening. I request that the staff report and all its attachments are entered into the official record. The city has initiated the review of these changes for the property at the corner of Orchard Heights and Dokes Ferry in West Salem. The request is to change the comprehensive plan, neighborhood plan, and zoning to neighborhood center mixed use. The zoning code amendments to establish the neighborhood center mixed use district and a separate public review process for a master plan were adopted by the council last year. This is the first application for the new zone. The principles of the mixed use neighborhood centers that are identified in the West Salem neighborhood plan and were integrated into the neighborhood center mixed use zone district include compact urban form, neighborhood compatibility, a variety of housing, innovative design, open space preservation, pedestrian orientation, and transit accessibility. The subject property is located at the northwest corner of the intersection of Orchard Heights and Dokes Ferry Road and is commonly referred to as the Bone Estate. The West Salem High School is directly south of the subject property. To the east are two new schools and a fire station. The residential neighborhoods that could be served by this neighborhood center include West Meadows Estates, The Heights, Chapman Hills, Royal Ann Estates, and they all surround the subject property. This center will provide services and be central to the existing and future residential units. This photograph is taken across Dokes Ferry Road and looking west at the subject property. This photograph is taken from across Orchard Heights and Dokes Ferry intersection and looking north back at the subject property. And then the last photo I have is a Google Earth map, and it shows an aerial of the subject property looking north. The findings and conclusion of the Planning Commission recommendation address the code required review criteria and are attached to the staff report. These findings support the changes to the neighborhood center mixed use for this location. Upon the application of the neighborhood center mixed-use zone to this location, a master plan process must be prepared by the applicant and the review process held through a public hearing by the Planning Commission. The recommendation is that the council adopt the order to change the comprehensive plan, the neighborhood plan, and the zoning, subject to the one condition listed on the slide. That concludes our staff presentation.
Thank you very much. And do we have anyone signed up to testify this evening? All right, we do. Mark Shipman and then Janet Noakes.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the council. My name is Mark Shipman. I'm a land use attorney with Sawfield Griggs, 250 Church Street, Southeast Suite 300, here this evening representing property owners in this case of the subject property, John and Judy Muscowie and Christine Hart. The property owners in this case, this is kind of the culmination of really a 4 to 5 year process that we've been engaged with staff as far as developing a neighborhood mixed use zone for the zoning code, getting that adopted, which council approved last year, and then essentially taking that zone and applying it to the subject property, which this action is. We've, along with the West Salem Neighborhood Association and long hours with staff and the city's consultants on this case, we believe that this is it's going to be a very interesting zone. Kind of excited to see how this will take hold, not only in West Salem, but frankly in other areas of Salem too. I think it's going to create some flexibility and allow for some different development to occur in our community. On behalf of the property owners, and we would specifically like to thank staff for just the tireless efforts and really in working with the property owners in this case. We concur with staff recommendation, and we would urge that the council approve the comp plan zone change application for the subject property, and we agree with the recommended condition of approval, and I'm happy to address any questions of council at this time.
Are there questions for Mr. Shipman? I have one quick question. Is that West Salem High School that's just south of the property?
It is.
It is. Okay, thank you. All right. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate you being here this evening. And Janet Noakes.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Janet Noakes. I live in Ward 1, 1393rd Street Northwest. And I'm here representing the West Salem Neighborhood Association as their land use chair. And I would like to say that we have been working with this plan and the neighborhood center mixed use since the summer of 2008. We have heard lots of input, and the neighborhood has had many opportunities to discuss this topic. It suits our West Salem neighborhood plan, and it meets all of the goals that we've outlined as what's important for us in terms of livability. The zone is written nicely to assure us that it will meet those goals that we have for our own neighborhoods. And our West Salem neighborhood plan has sort of a nice little, well, it's just another addition that that says in our neighborhood plan, any plan underneath the center land use designation must be brought to and affirmed by the West Salem Neighborhood Association. So as this develops, this zone and the master plan, they will be coming back and we'll be talking, and we want to just be sure that it reflects the neighborhood characteristics that we have, that we hold important, and that the traffic patterns and plan assure safety for our neighborhood. So with that, I ask you to support this zone change and all the changes to the comp plan and to our neighborhood plan.
Thank you. Are there questions of council?
See, we've just worn you out tonight.
Well, I apologize that you...
And you've worn me out, too. So.
Well, I apologize that you and Mr. Shipman and Mr. Cowie had to wait so long. We're going to do a little better on organizing our agenda in the future.
Thank you, though.
Yeah. Okay, no questions? All right, then let's... Is there anyone else here present who would like to speak who wasn't able to sign up on the sign-up sheet? All right. Under our policy, actually, the affected party has a rebuttal of 7 minutes. Does Mr. Shipman want 7 minutes for a rebuttal?
No need.
No need. All right.
I will waive my right to rebuttal.
All right. Then we will ask staff to answer any questions that councilors may have. Are there questions? Comments by councilors? All right. I'll close the public hearing. Councilor Clem, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you. I move staff recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilor Clem and seconded by Councilor Bennett to accept staff recommendation. Councilor Clem, would you like to speak to your motion?
I would, thank you. I just very much appreciate, boy, this is new. This is innovative. It's scary. We aren't building strip malls, and the neighborhood association is going to make sure of that. Because our West Salem neighborhood plan is not about commercializing the residential areas. It's about providing opportunities so we don't have to keep driving miles and miles just to get a Coke or to get to town. So I think this is an exciting start. Again, it's scary, and it's going to be watched very closely. I think folks living nearby there are going to be pleased with. You know, over the last 4 years, it's been just such a meticulous, careful trust-building exercise between the neighborhoods, property owners, developers, staff, that we really just have this absolute jewel of how to move something innovative that people are going to like. Earlier we talked about a plan, and Councilor Dickey said it beautifully. We have to have a plan for the future, because 25 years from now, people are going to look back and say, you know, at least they left us options, at least they had some vision. And it's not our property, it's the property owners. But I have a funny feeling that this piece of property will belong to all of West Salem. And I think it'll represent a change and a progressive way of thinking about how we have neighborhoods that are walking and shopping friendly at the same time. And so I look forward to the neighborhood and all the parties concerned in moving forward with this in a very thoughtful manner. There may need to be some adjustments. I mean, we're in uncharted territory here in terms of land use, particularly in my ward. So I think we've got great opportunity here, and I would beg your indulgence to give this a shot and plan for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Nanke, and then Councilor Chesler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As most of you can hardly forget, more than likely, you'll know I voted against actually creating this zone in its entirety. It is new and scary. And neighbors 25 years down the road from now may not be thanking us for leaving them options. This looks like it's going to be a wonderful development with the people involved. It's the other ones, the ones that we tell the neighborhood associations, you can't fight this because this is the code now, so we need to work to change the code. I hope it doesn't come to the fact that we take this away as a zoning code and grandfather these into something else because of problems down the road. I will support this one just to see what happens, but it's something we need to keep a severe eye on in the future because it can go this way very easily, potentially. And there's a lot of people who have concerns on placement of this type of facility. Meaning of the major intersections and where you can actually site one.
Okay.
And as long as they meet the criteria, we have to approve it. Is the other thing that we have to remember as well.
Are there other comments? Oh, I'm sorry. Councillor Tesler.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to voice my disappointment that Ward 8 was out of the gate before Ward 2 was on this, but that's okay. I was hoping that maybe this might happen in Ward 2, but it didn't, and that's okay. But however, there is an opportunity in the future for this to happen on another piece of property in Salem, I think, and I would very much like to see that happen because I really see the utility of this zone. And what was exciting to me, as it is to you, to be first, is to have the challenge of using this more in a core area, you know, with this kind of zone. And I think that this is something that's going to protect West Salem from having strip malls, which everyone hates. And it's going to give you more pedestrian access, and it's going to create a new little neighborhood. And I just really, I'm jealous because I wanted it, but I think that it's just, you know, over time, it's going to be excellent. There's going to be some bumps. And that's okay, but we've been watching this for a long time, and I'm eager to try this in another place. And I see some other people in the business in this room, and, you know, take heed and prick up your ears because I think this is the future. This is think out of the box planning, and I like it. It's elastic. It's good.
Good, thank you. I'd like to speak to the motion also. I'm strongly in support of this because of the innovation, because of the opportunity to bring to an area some of the services as well as multiple living opportunities, residential opportunities that are not in that area. And I think it shows a lot of foresight and planning. I appreciate how hard the property owners and the staff have worked together and worked with the West Salem Neighborhood Association to come up with, I believe, a new type of plan that's going to be, as Laura says, Councillor Tesler said, this could be a template for other areas, and I certainly strongly support it. All right, other questions, other comments? All right, we'll move to the question. All those in favor of the motion to support the staff recommendation on this comprehensive plan change, neighborhood plan change, zone change? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right. We have a third item. Would the recorder please, well, I'll give you a second.
Some of these will be real nice, some of them can be really awful.
Oh, all right, okay.
So, it's like, it's
All right.
that fear, it'll be.
All right, the hearing is closed, and now we'll entertain a motion from Councillor Nanke on the third item, which is order number 2012-40 SPR. All right, Councillor Nanke.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would move staff recommendation.
It's been moved by Councillor Nanke and seconded by Councillor Tesler to move staff recommendation. Is there discussion?
Just that we had gone through the majority of this at the last council meeting, and so this is just wrapping that process up.
Wrapping it up. All right. Are there other comments or questions? All right. I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the motion to approve staff recommendation, say aye. 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 Opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously. All right. We will move on to special orders of business, and I remember there were several pulled items, And we have a flood presentation.
And, well, I was going to recommend that we do the flood presentation later at another meeting.
All right. Oh, another
Not
meeting?
later tonight,
Oh,
but
not
later
tonight?
next month.
Oh, really? All right. Then we'll move.
3 weeks.
We're wearing you out, are we?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, I was reading the counselors' faces.
I see. Yes, right. Okay. Councillor Bennett, would you like to deal with the pulls that came from the consent calendar?
Yes, the
Okay.
first would be 3.2B, and Councilor Dickey has pulled that.
All right. Councillor Dickey, do you have a motion or comment on that?
Yes, I will move staff recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved by Councillor Dickey and seconded by Councillor Tessler to move staff recommendation. Councillor Dickey, would you like to comment?
Yes, I will be very brief. This actually is something that the Neighborhood Association has been working on for the better part of 4 years or so. About 4 years ago, we were approached by city staff and said, we would like you, the Neighborhood Association, that's when I was chair, said we would like you to recommend a name for this park. So that's kind of how this all came about. It went to the Parks Board, and I don't know, there was a lot of staff changes going on at that time, so for whatever reason, we are just now seeing it, just like some of these other things tonight. That's been a long time coming to get here, so appreciate your support on this. The name was recommended as a result of doing some research, talking to people who'd been in the area for a long time, and said this area had been known as Hoodview. And I think it's in the staff report that someone who'd lived there for a long time said at one time that name was changed to Kale Street because the county wanted to put the streets in alphabetical order. I don't know why, but anyway, so thanks for your support.
All right, other comments? Anyone who was driving north just a few days ago with a crystal clear blue sunny sky and beautiful Mount Hood covered with snow would know why this is such an appropriate name for this park located right up in northeast Salem. All right, we'll call for the question. All those in favor of the motion to adopt the staff recommendation say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously. All right, the next one, Councillor Bennett.
Madam Mayor,
Let's see.
this is just a second, 3.2D, and it's Councilor Tessler's.
All right, Councillor Tessler.
I'll go ahead and move staff recommendation on that.
I'll go ahead and second.
All right, moved by Councillor Tessler and seconded by Councillor Nanke to adopt staff recommendation. Councillor Tessler, would you like to speak to that?
I would not.
All right. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Motion carries unanimously. And 3.3F, I'm not sure if Councillor Clem or Councillor Nanke wants to introduce this.
Actually, I was first on the pull list. I had a couple of different questions, so I'd move staff recommendation.
All right, is there a second? It's been moved by Councillor Nanke and seconded by Councillor Thomas to move staff recommendation. Councillor Nanke, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yeah, and more so it was just to ask a couple of questions in regards to the potential for a summer aquatics program without the city involvement, specifically in regards to the funds required. It sounds like there's $250,000 worth of repairs, but yet you could still do a summer program. Does it need repairs or does it not? Is there a portion of them only that could be taking place this time, which would allow a third-party operator to still keep some kind of aquatics program
At
in
Walker
place?
Pool. Mr. Bechtel.
Mark Bechtel, Parks and Transportation Services Manager. First, there's two pools, and the $250,000 is related to the Walker Pool. And our conversations with the Salem-Keizer School District, which owns the pool, is that that $250,000 is a fairly comprehensive repair, / renovation of the pool. But that's what they are requiring to be done before they would allow that pool to be used for public purposes. They own the pool, it's their facility, and that's the requirement they're placing on having that pool available. The other pool, Ollinger Pool, does not require repairs at this time.
Okay.
Okay. And I have a question for Mr. Bechtel. The pool that is open is Ollinger now, and Walker is closed, but the school district has plans to mothball both pools. Is that correct?
Madam Mayor, neither pool is actually open right now. Both pools are in mothballs.
Okay.
The school district is running their aquatics activities, which they barely have aquatics activities anymore. They're running those through the Kroc Center.
Oh, all right. Thank you. Were there other questions or comments? I see 3 hands at once, so...
Just to follow up to get my original question answered, because there was nothing about a third-party operator potential.
There is a third-party operator potential at Ollinger Pool, and as we understand it, there are 2 or 3 potential operators who might be interested in contracting for the use of that pool directly with the school district. And so the city would be out of it, but there's still opportunities for summer swimming at Ollinger as far as we know today. Do you have any more recent information, Mr. Bechtel?
Well, there's 2 groups that have expressed interest in operating the pool. The YMCA, which did it on the city's behalf the last 2 summers, and then there's a group called Northwest Aquatics, which has expressed some interest in if Ollinger Pool would be available to run programs in. And as City Manager has said, we've been directing them to the school district to see if that's something they could work directly with the school district with.
Exactly. Councillor Clem and then Councillor Bennett.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm not in support of this simply because we haven't gone into the budget season. I understand the reason for bringing it forward, because if we don't do anything by the end of February, it's pretty much hard to get an RFP out and get folks lined up to partner with us to operate the pools. I'm just concerned that we've been supporting these pools in 3 ways with capital improvements over the years. We've essentially run them for the school district with our maintenance personnel really doing all the work, and then grants for children who can't afford the summer swim pass for public swim. So in those 3 veins, we've been supporting the pools, and it makes sense that if Walker just costs way too much money and the school district likely doesn't have it, that we're probably not going to be able to continue what we've been able to do in the past, just like the school district hasn't. But I'm still not convinced that if the second party does partner with the school district to at least operate Ollinger, that the city still somehow shouldn't participate through its youth and recreation in a very small way. The staff report here shows $74,000, and I'm assuming that means staff time for maintenance and so forth in the staff report.
The $74,000, Counselor, is for the physical operation of the pool, the chemistry, the boilers, the utilities, all that.
Yeah, and I'm not arguing that point, but I still would like during the budget season to have a discussion about if somebody does step forward, that, the city still plays some kind of a role in incentivizing a river city, particularly for the families that can't afford the Kroc Center, don't have transportation to it, and have used Ollinger. My kids learned how to swim at Leslie and Ollinger, so, I don't want it to be seen that the city is just sort of letting the school district drive this decision. I still see us taking an interest in our youth somehow. So I'm voting no on it just specifically so that there's a voice there for future discussion to have about whatever we can do to help incentivize a third-party company coming in, fixing the pools, and making them work. I do have a request in for information, and maybe it requires at a later date councilor motion, but we're still trying to get out of the school district what this itemized list of the $250,000 repair is for Walker. So I will tell you there are donor foundation organizations that have expressed an interest, and I'm excited about us in the school district providing that information to them. So an exacting list of what needs fixed at Walker can at least be considered by those organizations. Any update, Peter?
Yeah, Mayor, if I may, I made the request of the school district they promised it to me by the 1st of March. So as soon as I have that information, I will pass it along to you and I made it clear that, there was a donor possibility, and what they wanted to do is make sure that the numbers were accurate and well placed, so that if in fact somebody comes forward, they have numbers that they can really work with.
Councillor Nanke, Councillor Bennett, and then Councillor Nanke.
Just to follow up on this a little bit, I have thought that this was an unfortunate title for this, because for this discontinued city-sponsored summer aquatics programs, we really haven't been doing the summer aquatics programs, have we? I thought we'd been working with third party.
Well, we had, the third party actually contracted with us to provide the program. The Y did that last year, and I believe the year before. Is that right, Mr. Bethel?
That's correct. We contracted
and
with
we've
the Y.
also,
So we
a
paid
year
the Y.
ago. Pardon me?
We paid the Y to run summer programs?
No, I'll let Mr. Bechtel
Okay.
explain the arrangement.
We actually executed a contract with the YMCA for them to run an aquatics program on our behalf, where they do the actual operations of the program. We do the physical plant of the pool. They do the lifeguards, the instruction, the administration of the program. So I guess I'd characterize it as a partnership, is what it's been. And so that's what's happened the last 2 years. First year was at Walker, second year was at Olinger.
Right. The thing that concerns me is that I would expect that if there is a need for us to play that role again as kind of matchmaker between the school district, which seems to have trouble kind of putting this together. I mean, they're facing such tremendous challenges that we would play that role again.
Yes, we will certainly be happy to join, have the parties meet, join in those conversations, share the information we have about the operation of the pool. And I think if there was some small dollar differential, it's something we would come back to council and say, for this amount of money, it looks like it would work. But in terms of our ability to start now and get prepared to start, we really have to be ready to start hiring people in about early May, I believe. It's just getting late to do that. And the school district, as they've been struggling with their budget, have not been made clear decisions yet about what's going to be available. But we will meet. We know who a couple of providers are, and we can meet with them and meet with the school district and provide that just additional staff report to support to help make that happen.
Well, if this should be successful tonight, which I assume it will, because it's part of, and I think we shouldn't forget this is part of your rebalancing of our city budget. I mean, this isn't here because people are opposed to aquatics. I mean, as Dan pointed out, we've done this for years. We've really tried hard to keep one or both of these pools. This is because we're closing half a fire station, and we're looking at other cutbacks. That $75,000 is pretty important to keeping a police officer on the street right now.
That's right.
So it's a very difficult decision, but I think that what I hope is you will keep us informed on how we can play absolutely as positive a role as possible with the school district and any third party, so that Olinger can be reopened this summer for aquatics programs, because we know how to do it. I mean, you and your staff, you all know how to put this together, and the district hasn't been down this road. So I hope we're not, I just hate, I thought this was I thought the story in the paper, while accurate, was unfortunate because it makes it sound like we're shutting something down. And we're looking at a bill of $250,000 on Walker Pool.
Right.
$75,000 on top of that for costs of program. I mean, this gets very, very serious. So I don't think we're not going to have, I to tell you my opinion, just knowing how you operate and your staff have operated, I fully expect we will have some sort of aquatics program run by somebody that knows what they're doing at Olinger Pool if the school district will cooperate with us.
That's certainly our intent.
Okay.
Yes.
Great.
Okay. But we think it just needs to be clear that the city isn't going to operate and plan the program
We
this
can't.
year. And we
didn't
can't.
last year either.
That's right.
We didn't,
That's
I don't know if we did the year before.
We were in a partnership the year before, the same. And
Yeah.
probably did a little more maintenance and
Okay.
upkeep of the facility than we did last year even.
Okay.
We need a motion to
Counselor Nanki?
continue.
Oh, all right. Are you making that motion, Counselor Nanki?
I'll leave that up to the president of the council.
I'll
All
move
right.
we continue for 20 minutes.
All right. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Because the next motion was 25, so.
All right, who seconded it?
I did.
You did, all right. Moved by Counselor Bennett, seconded by Counselor Nanki to continue for 20 minutes.
Which will be 20.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay.
Yay.
How many nay? 2 nay. All right, motion carries. Thank you. All right, now we have I believe, Counselor Nanki, you still wanted to speak to this motion.
Yeah.
All right.
And I think what confused me originally was the $250,000, but yet we said we had work we needed to do or work that needed to be done at Olinger in regards to some warranty work and that there was potential damage. Do we know if in fact there was damage from the recent flooding event?
Counselor, there was some suspicion that there was damage from the hydrostatic pressure of the groundwater on the tank, which was not full at the time. But we were informed today by the school district that while there's some hairline cracks or creases, there's been no leakage. And then the warranty work that was to be done on the tank was completed. So at the moment, other than just the normal cleaning and setting up and that we have to do any year, that pool is available for use.
Excellent.
All right. Okay. Are there any further questions, comments by counselors? All right, I'll call for the question. It's been moved by Counselor Clem and seconded by Counselor Nanki, I believe.
Vice versa.
Pardon me?
Moved by Namke, seconded by Clem.
Oh, moved by Nanki, seconded by Counselor Clem to,
No.
I did not
Sorry,
say.
Thomas.
He's not seconding it.
It was Counselor Thomas.
oh, I'm sorry, Counselor Thomas seconded that. To accept staff recommendation to approve discontinuing the city-sponsored summer aquatics program that would begin in May. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
All right, the ayes have it with Counselor Clem voting no. Thank you. Let's see, do we have any other polls? I don't believe we do. All right, we move on to information reports. And you saw in your binder or on your agenda on the
Are we over?
that we're at 7A, Proposed Electric Fence Code Amendment. And on that item, I would like to make a motion. I move to direct the staff to prepare a resolution for City Council to initiate a code amendment to allow electric fences where they are not currently allowed. The resolution shall state that the City Council will be the review authority for the proposed amendment. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Mayor Peterson and seconded by Councilor Clem. Is there discussion? I will speak to my motion. I believe that it is certainly appropriate that a city the size of Salem would allow businesses to use the various types of security and safety equipment that it would be available to the general business public. And so therefore I made this motion so that our businesses may continue to be safe and secure in the most modern methods possible. Okay, is there any further comment? All right, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously. The other item in the information reports has to do with the Minto Island Bicycle and Pedestrian Bridge and Trail update. That's in your council material. Does anyone have any questions about that? All right. We have ordinances, first reading with the city recorder. Please introduce the first ordinance.
Ordinance Bill Number 8-12 relating to the keeping of chickens, amending SRC 50.710.
All right. Councilor Bennett, would
Madam
you
Mayor,
like
I'll
to?
move the staff recommendation.
All right, it's been moved by Councilor Bennett and seconded by Councilor Dickey to move the staff recommendation. Is there discussion? Councilor Bennett, Councilor Nanki.
Yes, I will be recusing on this item. I recused on it as it came up the first time, albeit there's no fees directly involved with this. There is the removal of an inspection, so there still is the high probability that there's a financial impact to me, so I will not be participating in
All right.
this line item.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? All right. It's been moved by Councilor Bennett and seconded by Councilor Dickey. Was that right?
Yes.
Yeah, all right. All those in favor of the staff recommendation, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Would the recorder please introduce the second reading?
Ordinance Bill Number 512 relating to the General Industrial IG Zone, amending SRC 158.020. Councilor Bennett?
Aye.
Councilor Tessler? Aye. Councilor Nanki?
Aye.
Councilor Clausen?
Aye.
Councilor Dickey? Aye. Councilor Thomas? Aye. Councilor Cannon is absent. Councilor Clem?
Aye.
Mayor Peterson.
Aye.
Ordinance Bill Number 712 designating the Joseph P. Sterneman House located at 170 Myers Street South, Salem, Oregon as a local historic resource. Councilor Tessler? Aye. Councilor Nanki?
Aye.
Councilor Clausen?
Aye.
Councilor Dickey? Aye. Councilor Thomas? Aye. Councilor Cannon is absent. Councilor Clem?
Aye.
Councilor Bennett?
Aye.
Mayor Peterson.
Aye. Thank you. All right, public comment. We have one person who has signed up, Kurt Fisher. Is Mr. Fisher here? Welcome.
Thanks for having me here. I know it's late. I have enjoyed watching you all work. I don't come here very often. And a lot of things that I've heard tonight give me hope for the future of Salem. But I have an uncomfortable issue to bring up tonight, and that's the story in the Salem Weekly regarding the composition of our current planning commission. As reported in the story, I believe that the current makeup of the Salem Planning Commission is against Chapter 6 of the Salem Revised Code, and I would urge you to take whatever practical action you can take to rectify the situation. Chapter 6 of the Salem Revised Code reads that no more than one member shall be engaged principally in the buying, selling, or developing of real estate for profit as an individual, or be a member of any corporation that is engaged principally in the buying, selling, or developing of real estate for profit, and no more than one member shall be engaged in the same kind of business, trade, or profession. The language in this subsection has the specific intent to minimize the representation of the real estate profession on the commission and to ensure that no single business, trade, or profession is overrepresented. It is clear that the current makeup of the commission violates Chapter 6 in both the letter and the spirit of the law. 4 members of the current commission have business interest in the real estate profession. James Lewis is an executive officer of the Salem Association of Realtors. Rich Fry is a home builder for Stephanie Fry Construction. Nathan Levin owns a firm specializing in the selling of commercial real estate, and Dargos is a real estate appraiser and consultant. Chapter 6 of the SRC specifies that only one of these individuals is eligible to serve on the Planning Commission at the same time. These 4 members of the commission I believe, are obviously engaged in the same kind of business, trade, or profession. The language in Chapter 6 is deliberately broad as to include a variety of activities pertaining to a profession. However, the business interests of Commissioner Lewis and Levin are even more closely aligned. Lewis is an executive officer of the Salem Association of Realtors, and Levin is a member of the same trade organization. Even the narrowest legal interpretation of Chapter 6 should recognize the fact that two commissioners that are both members of the same trade organization are in fact engaged in the same kind of business. Together, these members constitute a voting majority on the commission and have the power to shape the policies, deliberately or not, for the entire city that conform to the interest of their profession. I think it's important that this item rise to the level of action on the city council, and I encourage you to take whatever appropriate action is needed to rectify the situation. I will also qualify my comments to say I don't have any personal axe to grind it against any of these people. I'm sure they're fine businessmen.
Sorry, your time is up. Are there questions from council? All right, thank you very much. We appreciate you coming down tonight. All right, new business. We have no new business from the mayor. I believe there's a councilor's item. Councilor Clem.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the City Council schedule the public hearing for annexation case C-704 for March 12, 2012.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Councilor Clem and seconded by Councilor Tesler to set a public hearing March 12th for the petitioner-initiated annexation. Is there discussion? Would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, Madam Mayor. I want to disclose that I had inadvertent contact with the applicant and his engineer on February 15th at approximately 10 a.m., where I was understanding that they've since met with ODOT and several of the neighbors, and I believe that it's ready now for us to complete the public hearing. So I'll also obviously disclose at the public hearing. The only people present were the three people I mentioned, myself and those two people, and really the conversation was limited to the access from ODOT Highway 221 concerns that the neighborhood had. So there's been an attempt to resolve those. I have no idea what that resolution is, but that brief discussion led me to believe that we probably should move this forward and complete the public hearing at our next regularly scheduled meeting. So,
All right, thank you. Any further discussion? It's been moved by Councilor Clem and seconded by Councilor Tesler to set the petitioner-initiated annexation hearing for March 12th. All those in favor say aye. 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 Opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously. All right. Seeing no further business for the council this evening, we are adjourned.
To executive session.
No.